as the Florida Highway Patrol, who manages the Florida State Capitol building, which is just a few blocks away from the FSU campus. Meantime, the staff at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, they did confirm they received multiple patients from that shooting, and they are treating them to the best of their ability to provide care for those students. No word yet again on the extent of the injuries of the people injured. A lot of questions right now. As we talk to you here on air at this 1:30 hour, approaching 1:30, police are still trying to evacuate that building. The school did send out another alert saying that as they're doing that sweep of the Union there on campus, multiple rooms, multiple floors, they're going door to door, and they're using a safe word to let students know it's okay to exit out and that the coast is clear. But again, as they're trying to bring people to safety, it's unclear exactly if this threat is actually over at this hour at 1:30. So here in the last 90 minutes, it's certainly been an ordeal for the students and staff there on the campus of Florida State.
Tavares, you mentioned the video, of which we're trying to get more right now, but sometimes the videos being posted to social media really helps us fill in some of the gaps in information that we have. And we have many gaps right now, as all of this is still very preliminary, but some of what we're seeing, videos being posted for people on campus, on X, for example, a video posted during the 12 o'clock hour showed what appears to be a police officer pinning someone on the ground on the FSU campus. It's not confirmed exactly who that person is on the ground, but we're also seeing video of someone appearing to be carried away by three men. One of them looks to be either a cop or a security guard there on campus, but that person appearing to need assistance, being carried by, I should say, 3 or 4 people on the FSU campus. So just some of the bits of information we're able to sort of gather from the video we're seeing, but we can't confirm a lot of this until we, of course, get information from officials, investigators there on scene, the university, and the hospital, which is treating those at least 4 victims.
Yeah, and the hospital has not yet released an exact number, right, where the reports of 4 could be a little more. They also haven't said the extent of the injuries. Ethan, as you mentioned, we are waiting to hear from police. All we know right now is that students are still sheltering in place. They're having to clear everyone out of the building floor by floor. That is something that takes some time. But again, we're just looking at the massive scene, authorities swarming the campus, witnesses saying that they heard sirens all over, from all over downtown Tallahassee, and multiple people, witnesses who were not, or who were in nearby buildings, say that they did hear gunshots. So that's just, as you mentioned, we're passing along what we hear from witnesses. That's all we can rely on at this time. As many people there, you see them on their phones, standing by, waiting to hear more. Many have loved ones and friends, family who are on campus, and just a scary moment. Unfortunately, we know what that's like when you have to stand by outside the perimeter and just wait to get information. So as we're taking a live look, it looks like they'll be setting up a barricade, and hopefully, Ethan, within the hour, we'll get any new information to bring to our viewers and get a better idea of what exactly happened, how are these victims doing, and what is the status of this suspected shooter.
We do expect some sort of briefing from law enforcement there on scene at some point. Right now, the problem is we just don't know when that may happen. Again, massive law enforcement response, as you can see from the video. We've been showing you these live pictures from all around campus there as they work to secure this location. FSU, of course, a large college campus. There's a lot of ground to cover there. The main points we do want to hammer home for you right now is that this all started right around noon today, just a little after noon. That alert went out to the campus that an active shooter had been reported. Some students reporting that they did hear gunfire, some even reporting seeing a student-aged person with a gun. That, again, was around noon today. CNN reporting that a suspect is now in custody, and we know from the local hospital there, TMH, that at least 4 people are being treated for injuries, the extent of which is not clear.
And many people around the state and, of course, around the country have been watching. They're well aware of what's happening, including Governor Ron DeSantis. I mentioned earlier he posted to X, and he said that, I quote, "Our prayers are with our FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding." That is, again, what he tweeted. And he tweeted after FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, they mentioned that they are actively engaged in the incident. So they are on campus. So our state officials are standing by. They will also be briefed on what exactly happened here. As we know, multiple people were injured, sadly, at FSU's campus, and Tavares mentioned it. In 2014, a terrifying situation unfolded there. As we take live images currently of the situation here, you see people hugging so many students in fear.
Yeah, it's an emotional situation, of course. Particularly for those who are on campus, those students at FSU. Tavares is in the Satellite Center right now. Our entire Newsplex is working to gather more information on this and monitoring the feeds, really, from there in Tallahassee. The affiliates who are working to cover this story along with us, some of them talking to students there on campus who were there when this shooting happened. We heard from one earlier who was just saying it's really just a jarring situation. I believe we have that soundbite from a student at FSU talking about her experience and what happened as it happened, if we can listen.
Right now. Like nervous, I'm scared for my friends, I'm making sure I'm checking up on them, and I just hope everyone's okay and this gets handled soon.
And you said you weren't on campus when the shooting happened?
No, I was parking my car, walking back, and as I was walking back, I see these group of girls crying, really upset, walking back from the student union, told me they heard gunshots, and they just ran and came back to their apartment where I was walking to.
It's just a terrifying situation there. Again, as you heard her say, students reporting they heard gunshots on campus, others even reporting that they saw someone with a gun near the student union, obviously a very popular place on campus, typically with a lot of students in the area. So just a terrifying situation for everyone who had to be there today. That shelter-in-place order was put in effect very quickly. Everyone told to stay where they were, go indoors, shut doors and windows, stay away from doors and windows as a security precaution. Now, law enforcement is working to clear all of the rooms on the FSU campus.
Yeah, they'll have to be going floor by floor, and very scary for those students who have to stay in place, and you know, they're totally unaware of what's happening outside on the other side of the door, and terrifying for parents. This is every parent's worst nightmare to hear that there's been an active shooting at your child's school. And here we are at FSU's campus. I say child, but a parent is always a parent no matter the age of their son or daughter. So again, we're just looking at these live images. It appears there's been a barricade as roads will remain closed and more people will gather around to stand by and get more information. Of course, today we do have cell phones, so many people are hopefully hearing from their loved ones if they're able to do so. But Ethan, in an emergency, you know, sometimes you may leave your cell phone behind. Sure. You may lose your cell phone. You may not get to your cell phone. So it's in those instances where it's a little scary when you do not hear from your friend or family member because you may have had to just run. There was a video on social media where you saw people's like shoes on the grass. I mean, some people were just sitting reading and then they just took off. And, you know, even if you are able to reach your loved one there on campus, it's still a terrifying situation knowing they're in the middle of all this. We want to get back to Tavares Jones at the Satellite Center with some new information for us. Tavares?
Yeah, Ethan, Lorena, as we rely on local media there in Tallahassee to kind of tell the story here, an interesting account at this hour from the Tallahassee Democrat, that's the city's newspaper. They say that students in the College of Business, the building there that's adjacent to the student union, say they heard a teacher run down the hallway alerting them that a shooter was in the student union. They also spoke with a junior there on campus. He says he was in a smaller classroom and hid as he was preparing for his final exam. And that's when a much more serious conversation took place, because someone who's a student there on campus was also a survivor who lived through the Parkland shooting here in Parkland some years ago. And he said to him, "I can't believe this is happening again." So that South Florida connection of a student there reportedly on campus trying to get their education at Florida State, having to live through this again, this incident that all unfolded just, you know, within here in the last hour. We can tell you, we talked about those victims that were taken to the hospital as well. That is the only hospital that's able to treat shooting victims there. That hospital is the only level 2 trauma center in the Big Bend region of the state there in Tallahassee when it comes to natural disasters and things of this nature as well. You know, traffic crashes, traumatic events that are able to be treated at hospitals. But that Tallahassee hospital is the only one that can treat these victims if in fact they are shot, if that is the extent of their injuries. So trauma surgeons there on call, they say 24/7. A spokesperson also advising just at 1:22 p.m. here in the last few minutes from the Tallahassee Police Department that stay in place order, that lockdown order is still in place on campus, shelter in place. So there is some video surfacing on social media seeing students walk out with their hands up as they are being removed from the rooms, but they're to stay there until police come and clear room by room there on the campus. But just an interesting connection here to South Florida. It is being reported that a survivor of the Parkland shooting who is studying up at FSU has to live through this again, something like this happening on campus as they're now trying to continue their education there in Tallahassee.
All right, Tavares, and as you can imagine, officials, not just at the state and local level, but at the national level as well, are reacting to this as they learn the details, as we learn them too. FBI Director Kash Patel posting on social media saying, "My team and I have been briefed on the shooting at Florida State, and our FBI Jacksonville team is on the ground assisting. We will provide full support to local law enforcement as needed. Please keep the FSU community in your prayers." Again, that's FBI Director Kash Patel posting on X around 1:30 this afternoon.
And we also, as Tavares mentioned, a survivor of a mass shooting, and then there's another staff writer who has been working at FSU, and he mentioned on social media, he tweeted or he posted on X that it was sad that this is the second time in his lifetime that he experienced something like this, meaning in 2014 he was working at FSU still when that tragic shooting took place. And again, here we are dealing with this, just sad situation that we're having to once again bring you all here. So we are looking at live images as local media continue to show up there. We're hoping to hear from law enforcement officials any minute now. State officials have also said that they're all being briefed by law enforcement. Everyone right now trying to gather as much information as possible. And they all say that they're going to be informing us, the public, as soon as they get that information. So, Ethan, right now, it's a waiting game. We're waiting to hear what happened, how are the victims doing, who is this shooter, and, of course, the motive that will eventually, I know it will take some time, but why? Why did something like this have to happen on this day? Because
as eager as we are to get new information and to nail down some of what happened here, more of what happened here. We know that law enforcement, they're on the scene, and officials at the hospital where the victims are being treated, they all want to make sure that they put out information that is airtight and confirmed, and it's good information. So they, of course, don't rush that process because they want to make sure that they give us the clearest and most accurate information they can, which is why we continue to wait the way we do. To hear more from law enforcement as we are here at about 1:41 p.m. now. All of this starting right around noon today. And Senator Jason Pizzo posting on X, "I'm at FSU waiting for 2 of our interns to be released from lockdown." He went on to say that one suspect has been shot and captured. No indication of additional shooters so far. So this new bit of information here, according to Senator Jason Pizzo, is that he actually has 2 interns he's waiting to be released from lockdown. He's saying that a suspect has been shot and captured. No additional shooters at this time. That is what appears to be the case. So that means that this suspect is one of those injured being treated at the hospital. Do not know the extent of the injuries, but again, this information, this new bit of information coming from Senator Jason Pizzo, as again, right, he's one of those people, many more people are around the state and country, they have people they know on lockdown waiting to be released. And as the senator pointed out, still waiting for 2 interns to be released from lockdown. That's another indication that so many students and staff are still heeding that shelter-in-place order that was sent out around noon today. So you can imagine, again, this is a situation where it's not just people around the state and around the country waiting for more information. You've got people there on the FSU campus who still don't know exactly how all of this is unfolding, and they're waiting for information as well. Yeah, so this is why it is taking some time to bring you any new information. They're having to go floor by floor to make sure that they have the all clear. You can never be too careful and cautious. So we here in the Newsplex are waiting to verify video to be able to bring to you. We're also trying to gather any more information. So we know 4 people, at least 4 people have been hospitalized. It appears that among those being treated is the suspected shooter because according to Senator Pizzo, that suspect was shot
and then taken into custody, which kind of goes with what one witness said, that they saw someone on a stretcher and in handcuffs. So.
And we do have a map of the FSU campus now that we do want to show you. Just to give you some context here, we know, again, we've mentioned earlier, we know so many people in South Florida are very familiar with the FSU campus in Tallahassee. This is a look from above. You can see that is the student union right there in the middle of your screen. That's where reports are that this first started. Students first saw someone with a gun, heard gunfire. That was around noon today. And shortly after, the alert went out from the university telling students and staff to shelter in place. Local media talking to someone there on campus. We want to try to listen in now.
I am praying for our city and for the Florida State University community.
Yeah, you ever think anything would happen here when you send your daughter here?
You don't think it's going to happen, but with the level of gun violence in our country and with the level of mass shootings that occur, I think research shows that our country has more mass shootings than anywhere else on the planet. You always think in the back of your mind that someday something could happen. And a lot of anger for me comes from our policy with guns. And even in the state of Florida, how we made it easier for persons to own guns. We can't be a country that love our children and the citizens and continue to have the kind of gun policies we do. And I know everyone's going to say, no, don't rush to gun policy. Maybe some mental issues here or something, but we got to do something about that.
And you've been talking with your daughter. What has she been telling you?
She's just been real nervous because of not knowing what's going on, feeling safe, and then feeling not safe with movement from movement, and just wanting this event to be over as far as this day and to be safe again in her home with her family.
Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Many, again, reacting to the situation that's unfolded there on campus. And we do have new video that we did blur. It appears to be someone on the ground there at FSU's campus. As you can see, we blurred it out as authorities responded. Unclear who this person is, if they were a victim. But yeah, if it's blurred, that means it is graphic and it's not good. So all of this from a witness, many people having to stay in place, and we are just relying on witness accounts at this time, Ethan.
And Lorena, speaking of, those witness accounts continue to trickle in along with the video that we just showed, which helps us piece all of this together. CNN had someone there on campus they spoke with just a few moments ago. We'll listen in to that.
So we were evacuated from our building. Right now we are being held in another building, which I am not going to say, but we are currently in the process of being evacuated. There's a lot of police that are kind of checking doors. It's a very fluid situation right now, but we evacuated from our building to another building, but that's about as much as I could say right now, at least in terms of the evacuation process.
And what about, Garrett, in terms of the alerts that you were getting from the school as soon as you were told to shelter in place, and then what you have been told in terms of communication since then?
The communications has been roughly the same. It has been just shelter in place. Police are evacuating buildings, and then that there is pretty much like just a shelter in place. And as soon as police arrive, okay, there's going to be shooting. Hold on. There's going to be a gunshot.
All right, you just heard there from someone in Tallahassee on the campus of FSU talking with CNN just moments ago. Again, we saw some new video also coming in from the campus showing a body on the ground. We did blur that video for you, but that is what it appeared to show. Someone from what appeared to be either a rooftop or the top of a parking garage. This is that video showing, and you can see law enforcement officials also there around the area as the campus is on lockdown. We don't know the story. We don't know the details around this video, but we do know that a body appears to be on the ground here in this video.
And as we continue to hear from witnesses, one witness reporting to a local news outlet that they saw one student in what looked like on a stretcher and was kept in the road until an ambulance was able to pick them up. Directly across from where this person was on lockdown, there was a building about 50 feet outside of a window, and that's where the student saw the student who was injured, and they had to be transported, or they were in a desk chair to the road. So, you know, imagine on campus, right, using whatever you can to get to safety if this person wasn't able to be carried or wasn't able to walk themselves because of injuries. So just as time goes on, we're hearing a little bit more from witnesses and from students. And speaking of, I want to get to 7 Tavares Jones. Tavares, you're hearing more from witnesses.
Yeah, Lorena, new information coming into this hour from CNN. We know in instances like this, when you have a mass casualty or mass shootings or things of that nature, the numbers can change. Earlier, we reported that there were 4 people who were injured. CNN News now reporting that there are 6 people injured. Lorena, you touched on this earlier, that we could see this number grow as more information becomes available. I can also tell you Tallahassee police there in Tallahassee, they are working to brief the media pretty soon. They have set up a staging area. So a news conference will be happening here, I guess, in the next few minutes or hour or so. We'll learn more about what unfolded today on the campus of Florida State University as this tragedy has struck our state's capital area as students were simply trying to go to school today. FSU, we know it's a big campus, one of the flagship universities here in the state of Florida, home to roughly 40,000 students or more who earn their degrees there every day at the undergraduate and postgraduate level as well. Again, this alleged gunman on campus there in the student union wreaking havoc and had people sheltering in place and locking down in certain rooms and offices until police could, mitigate this threat that has happened. That stay in place order, the shelter in place order, at last check here, I'm looking at the university's alert page. It's still in place. Police have not said exactly if this alert is clear, even though it is reported that a male suspect has been taken into custody. So as these multiple accounts come out, again, we are trying to lean on some of that video we're seeing on social media. Some students can be seen walking out of the buildings there with their hands up, but that's just a small fraction of the number of students over the entire campus, as it is in a full lockdown. And police will have to go building by building and room by room to clear the campus and clear the situation there. Just some additional information. Ethan touched on this earlier. In addition to the campus there, this situation is also having some fallout around the campus in the city of Tallahassee. So we know that Leon County Public Schools is also in a lockdown. If not the entire district, then certainly the schools and campuses around the university there, which sits in the downtown area of the city as well. So a lot to figure out here, and as we piece this together and rely on local media outlets there. But again, roughly 6 people injured at this hour. That number could increase. It's unclear exactly as to the nature of their injuries and the extent of those injuries, how those people are injured. There is one hospital trying to meet the needs of all of these victims and patients right now, because that is the only level 2 trauma center in the area of Tallahassee and the Big Bend region of the state there near the Panhandle. So I'm still working to gather more information. I'll bring you more here as I learn more as well.
And Tavares, we do want to emphasize that point again. You updated the number there. 6 people reportedly injured and taken to the area hospital for treatment. We're also getting word that the suspect was shot, possibly, but is in police custody. We hope that that means that the threat has been removed from the situation there, but we don't have any official word from law enforcement just yet. But we do know that a suspect is in custody, according to reports, and at least 6 people are hospitalized.
So the question is, because we're also learning that the suspect may have been shot, is that person among the injured, right? Including, as they sometimes are. We're also seeing a professor posting on X saying still on lockdown with 19 students in Diffenbaugh waiting for an all clear. So again, all of this time we've been mentioning that authorities are having to go room by room, floor by floor, and we're now seeing, hearing from a professor, an FSU professor, saying that this is Elizabeth Ray, that she is still in lockdown with 19 students, and they are still waiting for the all clear. A very lengthy process, as again, it appears that there is a suspect in custody. It doesn't appear that there are any additional shooters, but of course they're having to be so careful, going room by room, floor by floor, to give the all clear. So that is what is taking so much time. Some students at this hour, they are still in a classroom or a room or wherever it is that they sought shelter, and they are still waiting for the all clear.
We mentioned, Lorena, that state, local, and even federal officials are responding to what happened there In Tallahassee, we heard from the FBI Director Kash Patel just a few minutes ago. We're also hearing from Senator Ashley Moody, who posted saying, my office has already been in contact with school leadership about the tragic reporting on FSU's campus. She says, I am praying for the safety of the students, faculty, and all first responders involved. Again, that is Senator Ashley Moody tweeting and posting on X, I should say, just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, everyone thinking and praying for those at FSU campus. It's being reported now that during a meeting, as you know, President Donald Trump, he is meeting with the Italian Prime Minister. He was asked about what happened here. He did tell reporters that he's been briefed on the shooting at FSU. He said, quote, "It's a shame. It's a horrible thing. Horrible that things like this take place." That is from President Donald Trump, what he told reporters not long ago.
And Lorena, Florida State, the official X account tweeting just a few minutes ago, posting, I should say, the student reunification point is being established at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center. Again, that's the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center on the campus of FSU. That's being used as a student reunification point. That's for anyone who may need to find people who were lost sort of when the chaos of all of this unfolded. Because as you were mentioning earlier, Lorena, when an alert like that goes out or when you hear gunfire, so many people sort of drop what they're doing and run, which is what you're supposed to do. They take cover. So now at this point, if the threat has been neutralized, they want to make sure people have a place where they can reunite and find others. That is the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center on the Florida State campus.
And we know that these buildings are filled with students and staff. We heard from that one professor who posted on X saying that she and 19 students were in one room. So you can imagine all of the other rooms. And then people in the hallways, right? People who had to just kind of run and seek shelter. So there is a lot happening on campus right now. We're working to get any new video that is circulating social media as soon as it is verified. But right now, all we can show you is this map as we wait to hear from law enforcement officials as state and federal officials as well as local officials are briefed and then are able to bring us up to date on what exactly we know. No word on whether there were any casualties. All we know is that that number is now to 6 people who were injured in this shooting. According to one senator, the suspected shooter was shot and taken into custody. So it is believed that this person is among the injured.
And we are about 5 minutes away, 4 minutes, I should say, from the 2 o'clock hour. That'll put us at about 2 hours since all of this started. And remember, the alert went out just after noon. The reports of gunfire were heard on campus near the student union. Some students even reporting that they saw that student-aged person with a gun. A lot of the details surrounding that still just not clear, as we have not gotten official word from law enforcement investigating this yet. That is something we're expecting anytime now, hopefully in the near future, a briefing from law enforcement, the main investigators there on campus, to get us up to speed on what they know as this investigation progresses right now.
And we've been showing you the map of the student union section on campus. According to one FSU student, that is where the shots rang out around noon inside the student union. They described it as the heart of campus, bustling with students and faculty at that time of day.
Lunchtime.
Lunchtime, right? Yeah. And so, you know, just at least 6 people injured, no casualties. We have not been told, I guess, updated how many casualties, if any, is the way I should phrase it. We are looking at video that has been blurred of a body on the ground. So we're just trying to wait before we try to piece any of it together. We want to be accurate. But again, so many people are tuning in, trying to get a hold of loved ones. Senator Jason Pizzo, he had mentioned he had 2 interns who were on lockdown. So everyone knows somebody who is at FSU right now who is probably in lockdown or perhaps was nearby and heard the sirens. Perhaps they didn't hear the shooting, but they heard the sirens. So just a very, very scary day as this massive scene plays out. And we're just standing by with you guys at home, at work, standing by, waiting to hear from law enforcement.
So many here in South Florida know that campus so well. And of course, they want more information as quickly as possible. It's just been sort of a trickle of any official word at this point. But of course, that is because this investigation is in its preliminary stages. And really, the earliest stages involved them just trying to secure a perimeter and get things to a point where they can make sure everyone is safe and ensure the safety of the students, the staff, the faculty there on campus.
And TMH releasing new information saying that they have received 6 patients, 1 in critical condition, the rest in serious condition. So right now we're learning 6 patients, 6 people have been injured, 1 in critical condition, the other victims in serious condition. So that is from the hospital who is treating these victims from the shooting at FSU's campus. That is the newest information that we have at this time.
Definitely the most up-to-date official word we've gotten so far. Not the news we want to hear, of course.
No.
We know Tallahassee Memorial Health did tweet earlier that they were actively working to treat those patients, and they made it a point to say they didn't want to release too much information too early because, again, they wanted to ensure accuracy and the privacy of those patients. Here's that tweet from earlier. Again, this is probably maybe an hour and a half old at this point. But it says TMH actively receiving and caring for patients related to the incident that occurred at Florida State University. At this time, details still unfolding. Again, they don't have specific information to share, but they said they do want to ensure the community, that their teams are fully mobilized and prepared to provide the level of care needed for this situation, Lorena.
And now they have provided that 6 people have been injured, 1 critically, the others in serious condition. We have much more video from you and accounts from witnesses. Let's send you to that.
I woke up, I was awoken by police sirens. I'm right next to the police station in my dorm room. And I was awoken by the police sirens. And so, I wake up and then all of a sudden these loud, blaring, like deafening sounds from the speakers in the dorms, they start going off and they start telling us, life-threatening emergency. And so, we start freaking out, in the rooms here, and then we get a text that there's an active shooter. And I mean, it was a shaking, a really scary event. I know a few people, one of my friends who was near the Union, and he was telling me how, he heard gunshots and how he just bolted across the road, and that, how terrifying it was. I mean, I was terrified, and I wasn't in the heat of it like he was. So, it's a very scary thing.
You heard there that alert, according to a student who gave a phone interview saying a life-threatening emergency was occurring on campus. He talks about how scary that was, using the word terrifying, as we can imagine was the case for anyone there who saw and heard what was happening.
And so terrifying to hear that his friend heard the gunshots and just ran. Right at that moment, you run for your life. So terrifying and so surreal to hear that something like this has happened at the campus of Florida State University. As I mentioned earlier, President Donald Trump, he's been meeting with the Italian Prime Minister. He has reacted on the matter. Let's listen to that.
I've been briefed on the Florida State University, Tallahassee active shooting. I guess it's an active shooting. Fully briefed as to where we are right now. It's a shame. It's a horrible thing. Horrible that things like this take place. And we'll have more to say about it later.
All right, there you have it. President Trump speaking from the Oval Office during that meeting with the Italian Prime Minister, saying he really doesn't have much information at this point either, saying he really wanted to wait until more details are available, and he'll have more to say later. But him, of course, there in Washington, just learning about it, as so many others are right now. If we could, let's go back to Tavares Jones in the Newsplex. Tavares, just to walk us through, for those of us just joining us, just learning about what's happened in Tallahassee and sort of the timeline of events here as we know it.
Yeah, Ethan, so just after noon today, around 12:02 p.m., there was an alert that was sent out to students and staff there on campus via a text message through the university's alert system. That alert was also posted to the university's X account, saying there was an active shooter reported on campus in the area of the student union, and that police were on the scene and or on the way, and they wanted people to continue to seek shelter and await for further instructions, also advising them to lock and stay away from all doors and windows and be prepared for additional information to come. Soon after, around 12:19, another emergency alert came down as well from the alert system, saying continue to shelter in place as police have responded to that active shooter call at the student union. It is reported reported that a witness there on campus told a local TV affiliate, WSVN-TV, that they heard multiple gunshots, which sounded like automatic gunfire in the building of the student union. At some point, they saw a college-age man leaving the union with a gun in hand. Soon after police apprehended a person, it is reported that that person is in custody. Initial reports came out saying there were 4 victims. That number, as we just said here, has been upgraded to 6 victims, 1 in critical condition, 5 in serious condition, all being treated at the same hospital there, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, which is the only level 2 trauma center there in the Big Bend region of the state. We can tell you the state's Capitol building, where Governor Ron DeSantis and, state legislatures, they handle business there. That's only a mile away from the campus. The state Capitol did go into lockdown at some point as well. That lockdown at the Capitol has since been lifted. Leon County schools there in Tallahassee as well, they were on a lockdown for specific schools that surround the Florida State campus. They also delayed releasing students from the high schools. Those students just were released around 1:50 this afternoon. Area school buses were also told to be rerouted around the campus and avoid the campus altogether. Florida State also today was supposed to play baseball against Virginia. That game postponed until further notice, as the school has also canceled all events, meetings, and any happenings on campus as police continue to mitigate this incident there on campus as well. Several videos coming across social media, that via X, one of those from a student meteorologist turned reporter. He was posting that video, he said, to help aid law enforcement and just show exactly what was happening. That video to the left of your screen shot there, as you can see students running across Tennessee Street there in the heart of downtown near Florida State University. At last check, that alert still remains in place on campus. That's according to the university's alert system. They're saying they're still.
Talk about what happened.
Yeah, I was in class and it was about 1 o'clock and the shots rang out and we were like, is that construction going on or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off. And I was like, what's going on? So I saw kids running away from the student union, and I walked away from the window. Then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out. And at that point, we were like, okay, there's a shooting going on. So we ran from our classroom, went to the offices, locked the doors, barricaded ourselves in there. And then we waited and was looking out the window again and saw the SWAT teams pull up, the police cars, the FBI come. And at that point, we're like, okay, we got to bunk ourselves in. And we were praying. We're like, okay, something's got to change here. And the SWAT team came into the room. They're like, stay where you are, don't move. And we were in there for about 30 minutes. And at that point, we were escorted out. About 100 SWATs were inside the building, and our hands were up. And so then we were escorted outside past the union and then into a safe space.
What was going through your mind when all this was unfolding?
Yeah, I was completely in shock. I didn't think this could happen at Florida State. I mean, we're a pretty safe campus, but yeah, this is just like unheard of to me. I never had been in a school shooting before, an active shooter. This is like the first time for me, and I was honestly in shock. My hands were shaking. Just adrenaline kicked in, and I really didn't know what to do. I started tearing up. Just like I was scared, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you just saw, you just heard the shots. You didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't see the shooter, but I saw the kids running away. I heard some screaming. Yeah, and the shots, like 3 rounds of like 5 shots, and then 7 shots. So it must have been some back and forth going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you doing now?
Good. I've recovered a lot. A lot of people have been texting me. People from out of state, University of Michigan friends have been texting me. People from South Florida have been texting me. People from high school have been texting me. Doing a lot better. It's been a great community that has surrounded me since then. I definitely didn't think I'd be traumatized as much as I have. Definitely not being on the scene, but being kind of away from it. But yeah, it's been scary. So I'm doing a lot better now. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Is there anything that you wish would have happened differently?
Yeah, no, I think the police responded very quickly. I think they did a great job. Yeah, I don't really know what could have happened. Maybe there's more police presence at certain areas for there not to be a shooter. I mean, I think that's just like the most obvious thing, but yeah.
All right, anything else you want to add? Anything maybe else?
No, that's great.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What was your name?
Yeah, I'm Cody.
Cody?
Yes.
Cooper.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Wow. And you just heard from a student, understandably shaken up, talking about how traumatizing the situation was for him. He never imagined that something like this would happen on his campus, a campus he's always felt so safe, and this is what usually happens. You never think something like this could happen, and sadly it did happen today. Some of the things he mentioned was that he heard the gunshots, more than a dozen. He said it sounded like there was a pause, and then he would hear more gunshots. And he also described seeing what appeared to be like 100 SWAT officers, or members of the SWAT team. That just goes to show how massive the response was. But again, you really feel for that student and all of those there on campus to just hear how shaken up and how traumatizing this was.
It is good at least to see students like him out and about on campus now. It appears that's a good sign.
It is, yeah.
Students like him giving interviews with local media because we hope that means the threat has been extinguished here on campus. Let's listen in.
And you're a student?
Yes.
And what year are you?
I'm a junior.
Yeah. And so, I guess talk about what happened here.
So I was actually on the phone in like the stairwell. I was in the library between like the 4th and 5th floor, and like people started flooding up the stairs, but like nobody told me what happened. So then I started walking back up to the 5th floor. By the time I got there, there was like these girls, and like it was just chaos. Everyone was like, there's like a shooter and stuff. And so like these guys started like pressing the elevator button to have elevators come up and like put tables in the walkway to like block anyone from getting on the elevator. And then like some other guys like closed the doors to the 5th floor and then put tables and stuff there. But we were all like kind of panicked. I was like freaking out and shaking a lot, but for some reason I just had a peace. And part of that is like because I'm a Christian, and I think Jesus gave me peace in the midst of a chaotic situation. People use free will for whatever they want to do. And so, like, it's very heartbreaking, but I hope that, God is brought through this and that people would maybe seek him out through it. But yeah, I was with actually a few of my friends, Nick and Allison. I was studying for an exam. But yeah, it was chaos. We were standing up there, and then we actually were by the windows. So like at the windows, we saw cops running, students running. It was just like complete chaos. Everyone was like running all over the place. And then we saw like a gurney, and then like the gurney came back, and the guy had his arm cut off, and I think like he was bleeding, and like he had like bandages and stuff. And so like that was really hard to see. Yeah.
I can only imagine what was going through your head when you were kind of realizing that there was a shooting on your campus.
I mean, when I saw everyone flooding up the stairs, I kind of thought that like the shooter was like in the library. I mean, like nobody told me where it was. They said like Landis or like whatever, and I was just in utter disbelief. I was like, you never think that it's gonna be like you and your campus, but you really never know. So it was just, it felt surreal. But yeah.
How are you doing now?
I'm doing okay. I mean, there's other people who are doing probably a lot worse than me, so I'm just like mourning for those people because I feel really bad. But other than that, like just waiting to like get my stuff back. My car is in one of the garages that they like locked down. So yeah, I don't have any of my stuff, so I'm just waiting for that. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add? Anything may have missed?
In the midst, okay, I'll look at you.
Yeah.
Okay. In the midst of chaos, like the Creator, God gives peace under all circumstances, and he seeks to have a relationship with everyone. And so like look to him for the source of questions and answers. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Just hearing from a student there, the student describing the panic, and she relied on her faith in that moment to remain calm. But she did mention that it was just absolute panic. Once again, another student who never would have imagined something like this happening. She described it as surreal, and she did mention that she saw someone seriously injured being carried out. It sounds like there was a serious injury to that person's arm.
And as we're starting to hear more and more from these students who were on campus at the time of the shooting, we're getting sort of seeing some patterns here and hearing some consistencies. We've heard multiple students now say that they've heard between 7 and 10 gunshots around noon today. They're near the student union. And two of them actually told the Tallahassee Democrat, the newspaper there in Tallahassee, that they sheltered in the basement of the student union when they heard the gunshots begin. They were two who described 10 gunshots at least while they were working on a group project in the area. They say a group of 8 people cornered themselves in a hallway and started to barricade the opening with trash cans and plywood, trying to protect themselves. They say they remember learning to do the best you could to take time because you just want to create a barrier between yourself and the active shooter. Again, this is reporting from the Tallahassee Democrat, the newspaper in the area.
And as I'm looking at some of the information that we're gathering here in the Plex, parents, as you can imagine, this is their worst nightmare, hearing about what happened. Many waiting to hear from their loved ones. There is one parent who mentioned that they've been talking back and forth. They know that their daughter, who is at FSU, is safe, and that their hearts and prayers are with those who have been injured. A terrifying, terrifying situation. As many people hear from their loved ones, we know there are at least 6 people who were injured, 1 critically, 5 others seriously. So those family members are getting word that their loved ones are in the hospital, 1 person critically injured, which means that they are likely fighting for their life. We know that those at the hospital doing everything they can to treat these patients as we here wait to learn more about where these students, where these faculty. We again know that this happened in the student union. For those of you who are not familiar with the FSU campus, it's been described as the heart of the campus, an area that is bustling with students and faculty, especially at the time when the shooting happened, which was the noon hour. And we've been hearing from students who have been scrambling, many of them saying that this is something that you kind of prepare for, right? You train for, you hear about this is what you do in the event that something like this were to happen. But it happened today for these students at FSU, and many of them, you heard they did what they could. They blocked the elevators, they blocked the doors, and they barricaded themselves. And while we're hearing from some students, we know that some are still on lockdown.
That's right. And law enforcement is now tasked with clearing that entire campus that was placed on lockdown, going door to door, room to room, to make sure there is no other threat on the campus and to get those students who sheltered in place out. We also do know that the state capitol, which is just nearby, near the campus, the lockdown that was in place there has now been lifted. So that's some good news for the immediate area around the FSU campus. But again, we're just hearing from these students now as they start to make their way out of their locations where they were sheltering, giving their accounts of what they saw and what they heard, and describing some really terrifying moments, as we can all imagine, even for those of us who have never experienced anything like that, saying they heard multiple gunshots, some saying they heard 10 or more, and law enforcement responding relatively quickly to try to get things under control.
And to add to what you said, Ethan, Tallahassee Democrat there locally, revealing more information as they talk to students. They quote Paige Miller, an FSU freshman. She says that she was in the bathroom outside her classroom when she heard loud bangs. Initially, she did not think that they were gunshots, but when she and a few other girls heard and realized what was happening, she says that they called 911. The bathroom door had no lock, so they held it shut for 20 minutes until police arrived. She says that when police finally arrived, again, as you can imagine, terrifying moments as they had to hold that door shut until it was safe to walk out. They said that that's when police had already responded, and there were police everywhere. One student saying it appeared to be like 100 police officers, just to give you an idea of how massive a response whenever that terrifying call came in.
And these universities do have a system in place and a protocol that they implement when something like this happens. And it sounds like FSU was able to do that very, very quickly today. The alert going out to everyone on campus that an active shooter situation was underway. That was just after noon today, which is right around the time that those gunshots were first reported near the student union. So it sounds like the university was thankfully able to respond relatively quickly, get the word out to students who may not have even been in the immediate area, and let them know what was going on and let them know how important it was to take shelter and seek safety in that moment, which, again, from what we're hearing from all of these students we've been slowly hearing from, that's exactly what they did and what they were able to do.
So So as at 2:17 this afternoon, police have not released any new information other than they have said that a man is in custody and that 6 people have been injured, 1 critically, 5 others in serious condition. They are at the hospital being treated at this time, and we are waiting to learn more, because what's so terrifying is that we know that where the shooting happened, there were so many people there. Were people able to run in time and avoid this shooter? We know that a professor had taken to X about 45 minutes ago, and she had mentioned she was still in lockdown with 19 students in one room. So what's taking so long at this hour is that authorities have to clear every single room, floor by floor. And we're just waiting any minute now to see when we'll be learning anything else. But all we're hearing are the witness accounts, students as they are no longer on lockdown, as they are able to leave the building and talk to their friends and family who have been so worried. And we are here, of course, waiting to hear from parents as they hear from their loved ones. Many saying that they've been in contact with their loved ones, but we know that 6 people, 6 different families getting different phone calls.
One of the main points of interest, of course, Lorena, is that shooter. We're still waiting to learn anything about who that person is and a potential motive here. Of course, this is the earliest stage of the investigation. Law enforcement really right now just busy trying to make sure the situation is secured, students and staff are safe, the immediate area is safe. But the questions are, of course, top of mind right now. Who would do this? Why would they do this? What could their motive have been? We do know, again, that President Donald Trump has been briefed on the situation in Tallahassee. He spoke on it very briefly from an Oval Office meeting with the Italian Prime Minister just a few minutes ago. We want to go back to 7's Tavares Jones, if we can. He's been following the latest developments from the Satellite Center. Tavares, what can you tell us to catch us up to date?
Yeah, the university is still in place, as you said, in this lockdown. They also pushed out here just at 2:02 p.m. that all Florida State athletics home events through Sunday, April 20th have also been canceled. As you know, this undoubtedly sent shockwaves through the community there, both on campus and surrounding the area. You talked about the Capitol building being placed on lockdown. That lockdown now lifted. Leon County schools, they're also reporting that their campuses are back and operating as normal right now. They're just advising school buses and students to avoid the campus of Florida State. Florida State, one of Florida's, the state's 12 public universities there in Tallahassee, home to just over 44,000 students simply looking to go to school and better themselves through the power of education. But that was interrupted today by an alleged gunman who opened fire on the campus there in the student union. Again, 6 people were told injured. It's unclear to the extent of those injuries. It's also unclear if one of those injured is the alleged gunman. The hospital there, Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, is the only level 2 trauma center in the Big Bend region. So they're treating all of those victims at the same place there in Tallahassee. Doctors there were told on call 24/7 because that is the only hospital available for people who undergo tragedies like this one. What else we know is, per Tallahassee Police, they had multiple agencies responding, as well as the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, as well as the FBI. They have set up a student reunification point that is being established at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center there on campus. No word yet if parents are making their way to Florida State, or actually how that's happening, or if people, like Lorena, you said, some students may or may not have their cell phones, but that is a point there at the Civic Center on campus where students can get in touch with family who are around the state or out of state to let them know they are doing okay. A lot of unknown details right now, exactly who that alleged shooter is, who the person is, but we can tell you again, Ethan, as you said, this all unfolded just after noon in the heart of the student union, where a lot of students, you get a lot of work done. There was also a bowling alley there at Florida State in the basement there, so students were doing some leisure activities as well, a lot of them having to hunker down in place and shelter in place as this all unfolded. These live pictures kind of tell a story as well. Tallahassee is one of the areas in our state where you have a number of people from the student population, the locals, as well as state lawmakers who go up and above, down these streets trying to get to the state capitol. It's kind of looking like a ghost town right now, as a lot of these roads are shut down and law enforcement have blocked off a lot of these roads leading to that university, which sits in the heart of the city's downtown there. As we await more details to come through, we can tell you law enforcement, according to the Tallahassee Police Department, they said they are doing a media staging there shortly to give us a news conference. It's unclear exactly if that will come in the next few minutes or the next few hours, but we should be learning more today as to what exactly unfolded there in the student union, and specifically the extent of injuries of these people who are injured, and more about that alleged gunman who turned a typical day of learning on campus into tragedy. We're going to work to get more stuff for you here at the Satellite Center, but that's what I have for now.
All right, Tavares, and you mentioned we do know a man is in custody. What we've been hearing is a lot of students describing seeing injured people being carried out and put into ambulances. No one seems to have seen this suspected shooter. They've heard the gunshots, and again, it appears there were many of them, some people reporting more than 10. And one student even mentioning different rounds, making it seem like there was some sort of pause, and then the more shots were fired. So again, we are waiting to hear, did anyone see this person? Who was this person? But again, we know that this was at the student union, which you see there at campus. It's the heart of the campus that, according to many, was just bustling with students and faculty. As we can see right now, looking live at your screen, you'll see the road is shut down, but there is a bridge, and we're seeing dozens of students making their way over to the bridge, presumably being let out and now being able to walk to her home or wherever it is they need to go. So right now, it appears that a group of students, a wave of students, is walking out from that area. As we've been reporting, the campus has remained on lockdown. Authorities have been going room by room, floor by floor, giving the all clear. But this is something that has taken a long time as we see more students here make their way across the campus area. So we're going to stay on these images now as we continue to wait for law enforcement officials to give us an update. All we know right now is that a suspect has been taken into custody, a man, and that at least 6 people have been injured, 1 in critical condition, 5 others in serious condition. And as we take a look at these live images here, we're just standing by. Craig Stevens here joining us now. Hi, Craig.
Hi there. Sorry to be with you under these circumstances. And as you mentioned, the numbers, important to point out that the situations like these are highly fluid and subject to change. So, you know, I always say with an asterisk, at least 6 people wounded in this. But as we learn more from authorities and the multiple agencies involved in this investigation, sadly that may change in terms of the number and the conditions of the victims involved in this shooting. And as you point out, because of the location of FSU, so many agencies, from the state police to the FSU, the university police, the FDLE, have all converged on the student union area of Florida State, one, to get a handle on the situation, which it appears they have done as they begin this process of going room by room, floor by floor, to secure the campus that is still on lockdown and allow those students ultimately to leave.
And we are standing by waiting to hear from law enforcement officials as soon as they're able to give us any information. Right now, we're hearing from parents. Let's listen in.
A call from my daughter before it hit the news. We've been on the phone with her for over an hour ever since. As a father, my wife's in the car, and a mother, we are concerned for our daughter, but at least we're talking to our daughter and know that she is safe. Our hearts and prayers and minds are to anyone who's possibly had a child or a relative who's been injured or possible loss of life. And as a new pastor here in Tallahassee at the Bethel AME Church family on Orange Avenue, I am praying for our city and for the Florida State University community. You don't think it's going to happen, but with the level of gun violence in our country and with the level of mass shootings that occur, I think research shows that our country has more mass shootings than anywhere else on the planet. You always think in the back of your mind that someday something could happen. And a lot of anger for me comes from our policy with guns. And even in the state of Florida, how we made it easier for persons to own guns. We can't be a country that love our children and the citizens and continue to have the kind of gun policies we do. And I know everyone's going to say, no, don't rush to gun policy. Maybe some mental issues here or something, but we got to do something about that.
Yeah, as we take a look at students hugging each other after the terrifying situation, many expressing that one parent, his outrage regarding the gun violence. And Craig, students have been describing what they saw. They continue to describe what it was that they saw during this active shooter situation. Let's listen to that.
I was in class and it was about 1 o'clock and the shots rang out and we were like, is that construction going on or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off. And I was like, what's going on? So I saw kids running away from the student union and I walked away from the window. Then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out. And at that point we were like, okay, there's a shooting going on. So we ran from our classroom, went to the offices, locked the doors, barricaded ourselves in there, and then we waited and was looking out the window again and saw the SWAT teams pull up, the police cars, the FBI come, and at that point we were like, okay, we got to bunker ourselves in. And we were praying, we're like, okay, something's got to change here. And the SWAT team came into the room, they're like, stay where you are, don't move. And we were in there for about 30 minutes. And at that point we were escorted out. About 100 SWATs were inside the building and our hands were up. And so then we were escorted outside past the union and then into a safe space.
So I was actually on the phone in like the stairwell. I was in the library between like the 4th and 5th floor, and like people started flooding up the stairs, but like nobody told me what happened. So then I started walking back up to the 5th floor. By the time I got there was like these girls and like it was just chaos. Everyone was like, there's like a shooter and stuff. And so like these guys started like pressing the elevator button to have elevators come up and like put tables in the walkway to like block anyone from getting on the elevator. And then like some other guys like closed the doors to the 5th floor and then put tables and stuff there. But we were all like kind of panicked. I was like freaking out and shaking a lot, but for some reason I just had a peace. And part of that is like because I'm a Christian, and I think Jesus gave me peace in the midst of a chaotic situation. You know, people use free will for whatever they want to do. And so, like, it's very heartbreaking, but I hope that, you know, like, God is brought through this and that people would maybe seek him out through it. But yeah, I was with actually a few of my friends, Nick and Allison. I was studying for an exam. But yeah, it was chaos. We were standing up there, and then we actually were by the windows. So like at the windows, we saw
tackle this, but I know a lot is circulating on social media. How are you kind of dealing with that?
It's insane the amount of false information out there. I've seen so many different news places giving such different information. It's hard to tell who can trust. Some people are saying there's 4 shooters. Some people are saying there's 2. Some people are saying there's 1. Somebody said there was a shooter hiding in a suitcase, and I don't know. And now they're saying that we have to leave campus, but a lot of us don't have anywhere to go. A lot of us have our cars parked on campus, and it's very confusing.
Yeah, and so a lot of us can't get in, of course, as they're making people leave. What does it look like deeper in campus right now?
There's like so many people that are just walking and they don't know where they're going. They're just following the people in front of them, and it's crazy. But there's so many cops and there's so many people are just walking. Yeah.
And are all of your friends okay? How's the situation with you?
All of my friends are fine. My one friend who I could not get in touch with, she ended up hunkering down in the bank underneath Woodward Garage, and they're still not letting her go. They're waiting for the police to come and clear it out, but she's still stuck in there. And I was coming to go get her, and hopefully we could just wait in my car for a little bit, but they won't let her leave.
Yeah, and just one more question. You know, normal day at school kind of turned into something else.
It's crazy. You don't expect your day to go anywhere near this direction. You wake up and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to class today. I'm tired. And then something like this happens, and it's mind-blowing. You just get shooken out of your bubble.
Awesome. And just last question for you. As you're heading out to campus, where is your head? Kind of what's next for you?
I'm going to go home and kiss my cat and call my parents and call everybody who has been texting me nonstop and let them know that I'm okay and that I'm safe. I don't know what else to do, so.
That's the most important part. We're glad to see that you're safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to keep monitoring conditions here. Zoe here telling us her own account of what it was like to be.
All right, you were watching. That was actually a live interview with a student, courtesy of our Tallahassee sister station there, giving us a sense of what it was like for her. And I'm struck as we watched the live interview and the previous recorded interviews and the ones we've shared with you throughout the early afternoon here. I'm struck by the composure of these young people and their ability to find the words in such a scary situation, and virtually all of them across the board have been able to find the words and harness that fear, but convey what happened so vividly. I mean, sadly, FSU is no stranger. They had an incident there several years ago, but it's a sad reality that our young people now, whether through constant drills or what have you, but it's become a part of life.
And to your point, Craig, we've been hearing from these students and many of them saying that they're told what to do when something like this happens, but they were really put to the test. There was panic, but through that panic, they managed to lock themselves in, find, a safe place. And one of the things during that live interview that we heard, which is so terrifying, is all the misinformation that happens during the panic and when you are waiting to see. So, Craig, we've been reporting that 6 people have been injured, 1 critically, 5 seriously. One outlet, according to NBC News, they're saying that there was a casualty, but we are still waiting to hear from authorities. They have not released any information. The information we do have is from the hospital, who are treating 6 people from gunshot wounds, and you mentioned that these numbers can change. So we're only hearing about the injured. We do not know what it looked like inside the building, the student union, where they say it's the heart of the campus. It was bustling with students and faculty at the time of the shooting.
Now, there is a lot of ground for the police investigators to cover, literal ground, several floors of these buildings as the campus extends far and wide. So it may be some time before, quite frankly, in these kinds of situations, their priority is not the media.
Right.
Their priority is safeguarding the campus and the lives of the people on the campus, and that could take some time as they make sure everything is where they want it to be, after which is the point at which they would share with us the information that they've been able to put together. So again, we're cobbling the information from a variety of sources, the hospital being an important one, and whatever bits and pieces the different law enforcement agencies are able to share at this point in time.
Yeah, we've been relying on witnesses, particularly students who've been describing what they heard and what they experienced. No one appears to have seen the shooter, but they heard the gunshots and they described the panic. One student mentioning that she saw an injured person being carried out on a stretcher. So some did see those who were injured in this tragic shooting here. We again know that one person, a man, has been taken into custody. According to Senator Jason Pizzo, he mentioned that it appears that that suspect was shot and then arrested. And then there's this video that has been blurred of what appears to be a body on the ground. Do not have any information regarding that. Again, we do not know.
And that's the blessing and the curse of, I guess, social media now, because people and I'll look to the better angels in an effort to be helpful. They share these videos, but oftentimes without context. So you don't know what you're looking at. So we bring all of that material in and do our best when we share it with you to offer the context that's perhaps missing on a quick social media blurb. So that's kind of why we have to couch a lot of what we tell you, because we're trying to confirm the information as we put it out there. So these are live pictures again. So you see movement, which again the effort has been to clear these buildings little by little, and that appears to be a process that continues. We do know that classes and other extracurricular activities, anything set, and it's a busy time of year, springtime on a campus, it's about to wrap up for the year. Everything for the day has been canceled, understandably.
Yeah, and they said that events have been canceled through the weekend. There were athletic events that were supposed to be taking place. All of that now canceled, as a rather large investigation will be taking place for some time now. And as Craig, you said it, that's the much activity that we've been seeing, because they have been going going floor by floor. Earlier, we saw a professor tweet that she was on lockdown with 19 students. So that's in one room alone.
And it's, again, building by building, room by room. I suppose if there is anything from which to take comfort, it's that you are able to see movement of people outside of buildings. And if this were still an active situation, that would unlikely be the case. People wouldn't be allowed out of these buildings. Again, that's just using history as a guide. We'll wait to hear from authorities in terms of when they say the all clear has been given. But if we're seeing that movement as they're able to clear buildings, that perhaps is a positive and encouraging sign. I think we have some video that we just got in that we wanted to share. Is that what my understanding? Let's look at it.
But we saw people downstairs running through that. But we saw people downstairs running through that.
All right, well, it's edited, that's put together. I can't quite make out the Ryan person who did it, but it's kind of an edited version of what transpired earlier.
The response, right? The massive response. Many people described that there were just sirens blasting all over downtown Tallahassee, and that was a little glimpse of that. And we continue to look at these live images now. It's a different vantage point of the campus we have not yet seen. And again, just a massive law enforcement presence. You touched on it earlier, Craig. You have state, local, and federal officials there, including the FBI. They have an office. They have agents there that are on campus now because they have a Jacksonville office. So they are working closely now with the investigation, and we are hoping that they'll be briefed here soon so they can update us on what exactly unfolded earlier today.
And we know, again, if you know by way of Tallahassee, and I don't know if our map points it out, but this is also concentrated in a pretty tight area, not far from the state capitol. And there were some state lawmakers who talked about they knew something was happening because they could hear that you mentioned, that massive response as all of those rescue units and whatnot roared toward campus just past the Capitol building.
And there was mention that buildings adjacent to the campus were placed on a brief lockdown when the gunshots were heard. So again, as we're standing by here, we're looking at these live images. You'll see that a portion of the road there has been closed as authorities continue to respond and now investigate this shooting at FSU's campus. Several local media outlets there on the scene. They continue to talk to students who have since left campus after being on lockdown for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We're looking, or I should say more than an hour. We're looking at some of those students there, which we presume have been given the all clear, depending on where they were. They were walked out of the building there, and now they're standing by, many of them wanting to make phone calls to their loved ones and friends and let everyone know that they are okay. And of course, they'll now have to recover emotionally and mentally from this traumatic situation that unfolded around noon at FSU's campus today.
We know that the president has been hosting the Italian prime minister, and they had a brief availability in the Oval Office a short while ago, and I believe they also took questions. And at this point, the president essentially said he's been briefed and expressed, sadness over this occurrence, but outside of that, wasn't able to offer that much more at this point in time. But obviously, as is custom in these situations, he did indicate he'd been briefed, and I think we can listen to that.
I've been briefed on the Florida State University, Tallahassee active shooting. I guess it's an active shooting. Fully briefed as to where we are right now. It's a shame. It's a horrible thing. Horrible that things like this take place. And we'll have more to say about it later.
And that was it. After that, it was on to conversations about immigration and tariffs. But the White House did want to get that on the record, that the president was made aware. After all, this is his adopted home state now. So that from the White House just a little while ago.
Yeah, and Governor Ron DeSantis, he also expressed that he is praying for those affected by what happened here on campus, as well as so many people on social media, as we continue to see students and other people, presumably parents and faculty, as they are in that area. And Craig, on a personal note, I could tell tell you my mom's colleague, her son is a baseball player at FSU. I'm waiting to learn more, but my mom briefly spoke to her, and she said she was a nervous wreck to hear about what happened on campus. I'm waiting to hear to make sure that she spoke to her son and that he's okay. But like so many parents, he's a baseball player at FSU. She's so proud. FSU, such a safe campus. No parent would have ever imagined that something like this would have happened at their child's campus.
There was a sound I heard earlier from a young student born and raised in Tallahassee, attending FSU, and said she'd always felt safe in Tallahassee, always felt safe at her campus, and all of that, of course, changed today. And to your point, also, an important point, your mother's friend's son. I don't know if we have it, but there's some of the young man who'd been on the telephone, and you could hear when the officers came to clear the room and encouraged them to get their things and let's move, but told them you might not be able to make a phone call right now because there's so many people trying to use their cells. Cell service is poor, so that even adds to the anxiety that you want to call your folks and say, hey, I'm okay, but the officers indicated you might have a hard time because imagine the thousands of people who are here trying to do the same thing at the moment. So hang tight, moms and dads who are waiting to hear from.
Yeah, so we heard, according to my mom's colleague, she said she did hear from her son so that he is okay. But we talked about it too. When something like that happens, if your phone is not in your pocket nearby, sometimes you run off. You run for your life. You don't think of your belongings. There were images on social media of blankets and books and belongings left on the ground. People just ran when they heard these gunshots ring out at the student union section there.
And I think you mentioned this just a few moments ago, but from FSU Athletics that all home events through Sunday the 20th have been canceled. They plan to communicate any updates next week, reference other adjustments to the schedule, but for the time being, everything through Sunday the 20th has been canceled. That from FSU's athletics department. And as they try to get a handle on what exactly happened here today, there'll be probably lots of other scheduled events of the non-athletic nature that will also be affected by this. But again, sadly, we've had practice with this in the past, and I think people know to expect that at least for the time being, scholastic life at FSU won't be the same for a little bit.
And to your point, when you think about safety, all of that coming into question now, there are so many important buildings around being the state capitol. You never think that something like this could happen. And again, but just before noon today, the unthinkable did happen at FSU's campus. They once experienced a tragic shooting in 2014, and no one ever thought something like this would happen again. But this affecting many more people, as at least 6 people are in the hospital, 1 in critical condition, 5 others seriously injured. And we do not have any information on any casualties, if there were any casualties, as we are standing by waiting to hear from authorities at 2:45 this afternoon.
And as we, just pause to consider, again, the student union being the heart of the campus. I'm always drawn back to that. I mean, I think someone made the point here, but at any university,
really,
that's where you go. That's where you go to eat lunch, and you might go to study, and you might the campus bookstore might be there. I mean, there are all these reasons to congregate there in between classes or after classes or as you start your day. So you can imagine this time of year in the spring semester, as it's beginning to wind down, just the volume of people who had converged on that space. I mean, when you think of targets on a campus, that would have to be one of the most vulnerable, just because of the numbers of people who congregate there. And again, we'll learn more ultimately in regards to the movements of the shooter and whether that was the targeted location, whether there were others along the way. It's still very early in the investigation.
Yeah, and I do want to point out there is a student reunification center that's been established at the Tucker Civic Center that is according to authorities there in Tallahassee. So if anyone familiar with the building or the campus area, it's at the Tucker Civic Center. And that is where the Student Reunification Center has been established. As again, many of these students are, reuniting, making sure their friends are okay, and calling loved ones to make sure that they are okay once they were given the all clear.
As we continue our coverage here on the air and online at WSVN.com, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my colleague Ethan Callaway, who brought us through a good part of the morning into the afternoon, and to Lorena Estrada as well. Lynn Martinez will join me momentarily as our coverage continues here this afternoon of this shooting at Florida State University. At least 6 people have been wounded, one of them critically, and we know at least one person is in custody. The campus remains on lockdown at this hour as they conduct a floor-by-floor, building by building, floor-by-floor, room-by-room search, and little by little releasing those who have been in lockdown since just after noontime today. The state capitol briefly was on lockdown as well. If you know the area of downtown Tallahassee, they're all pretty close to each other. That has since been lifted, so business is being conducted at the state capitol in the legislature, though with a wary eye on their neighbors nearby at Florida State University, where this continues to unfold at this hour. Again, as that goes on, and again, these are live pictures we'll point out, so you'll see some of the buses that perhaps are being used to move some of those students who have been allowed to leave their lockdown locations to a safe reunification location. As this all continues, there's no indication at this point, as of yet, when we might hear from authorities. But again, as we've mentioned, we aren't the priority at this point. Briefing the media, the priority is safeguarding the students, the faculty, the staff, everybody who has been on this campus as this tragic series of events unfolded. And once they have a handle on that, once they are comfortable knowing that everything is secure, at that point, they will come out and bring us the latest information. And when I share with you those numbers, and I pointed this out a little while ago, they are obviously, sadly, subject to change. But as of now, at least 6 people wounded, 1 critically in this shooting incident at FSU, and 1 person is in custody. And Lynn is here to help us carry through with the next bit.
Yeah, as we continue to look at this live picture, we know that President Donald Trump spoke about this situation a few moments ago. He's meeting with the Italian Prime Minister there in the White House, and he spoke to reporters about this shooting, saying it's one of those things that happens. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. And there will surely be a discussion about gun legislation, gun control, guns at our schools in the future. Unfortunately, this seems to be an all too familiar scene. Many students and those who live in this country almost becoming numb to shootings. But again, if you're just now joining us and just now hearing about it, the suspect is in custody. Everybody is talking about this. In the last 2 hours, just out in the community, I mean, everybody knows somebody or knows somebody who goes to the school or lives in this area and is very concerned.
We mentioned the response, and the response right after the initial report of shots fired on campus was almost immediate. And I mean, you're the mom of college age-ish young people, but it's become such a fabric of life in the elementary, the middle, the junior high, the high school, and the college world, where that's part of your preparation. And FSU saw a shooting incident about 10, 11 years ago outside the library there, so it's been baked into their orientation. The university is well practiced, unfortunately, for this possibility. So when they look at this down the line, it may well be the response was effective and hopefully helped save lives or safeguard lives because of the practice, because of the drills that have become a part of campus life there and really everywhere.
You might have, I'm just now joining you, so I haven't been listening to your coverage in the last few minutes, but police have announced that they have found 3 weapons, and there's still, one was on the alleged gunman. There's still some discussion. Of course, this is very, very early in the investigation as to, was there only specifically one shooter? Where did these other guns come from? A weapon, a high-powered weapon, was found in a vehicle believed to the vehicle belonged to the shooter. So we're very early in the investigation, and our focus right now, of course, is not only on the suspect in custody, but at least the 6 people injured. 1 is in critical.
And I'll share this because the university just sent this out a moment ago on X. Continue to shelter in place. Law enforcement is actively clearing rooms on the main campus. Continue to shelter in place until law enforcement contacts you. And again, that's not to suggest this is an ongoing event. It is to suggest this is a large campus with lots of buildings and lots of rooms, and they have to go section by section, clearing each one before they will allow people to safely leave the campus. So that process could take a while, and I draw attention to that again because that means until that process is complete, we probably won't hear from authorities in terms of giving us any information from them. They did urge people, and again, for folks down here who have kids up at FSU, this might be helpful to you. If you're on the campus there and you need immediate assistance, you should call 911 or the FSU PD, the campus police, at 850-644-1234. 850-644-1234 is the number for FSU's campus police. So this looks to be an orderly grid search, building by building, floor by floor, room by room, and as they secure them and they feel satisfied it's okay, they allow these young people to leave. And that's some of what we've been seeing. If you've been watching in the live pictures, we've seen rows of students at different parts of campus being moved out. So this is part of the process.
And think about what these poor students and faculty and people in the area are going through. Here we are a day before Good Friday. This is exam time. Many of these students and seniors are very close to graduating. So they have a lot on their plate on this Thursday, and I'm sure there was a buzz of activity there in the student union when this shooting took place. These people, the 6 people who are being treated for what we believe are gunshot wounds, were taken to Tallahassee Memorial Health Care right now. We know at least 1 person is in critical condition. The others are in serious. And as Craig has mentioned many times, this is a fluid situation. The investigation has just begun, and this number could change. But we do know the suspect is in custody. Unclear if the suspect was injured as well or how this person was taken into custody. But police say they have at least 3 weapons that they've discovered.
And again, because we are sadly practiced in these kinds of events, all of the resources are being brought to bear in Tallahassee to the FSU campus. Obviously, the FDLE is a part of it. The Sheriff's Department there is a part of it. Local police. The FBI is also involved in this. All of them will work in tandem. Of course, there'll be a lead agency, but all of them will work in tandem as they, work to identify whether this gunman acted alone or had some sort of help, what kind of motive there was, if there's a persistent threat. They're all working on that as we speak right now. All these agencies have coalesced on the campus there. That's the state police there. We just saw a sheriff's vehicle, but FDLE, the FBI, and others all involved in this investigation that's just now really getting underway.
This seems to be obvious, but it bears repeating if you've already talked about it. All classes and business operations at Florida State University have been canceled at least through tomorrow. This is according to the university. Also, athletic home events are canceled from now at least until Sunday. So the whole area pretty much is on lockdown until police really initiate their investigation. They do say that essential employees should check with their supervisors for further instructions, but pretty much everything is canceled throughout the weekend.
Just reading an update from Senator Jason Pizzo, who's been helpful on his social media, sending out bits of information, and he reiterated, and we should also point out, and again, not clear if it's the video we shared a little while ago. We did have a piece of video where we saw someone being escorted out by police who appeared to have been wounded in some way, and Senator Pizzo is mentioning that the shooter who is in custody had been shot. So Don't know by whom, but according to Senator Pizzo, the shooter is among the wounded, shot by somebody, in addition to the victims of that shooter. So again, all of this will gel, all of this will come together over the next few hours as we hear from authorities when they again have a fix on the situation and have time to brief the reporters who have gathered there from far and wide.
And that has been the question for the past hour or so. We say the suspect is in custody. Is this person in custody in the hospital? Is this person injured? It's unclear right now. And as we mentioned earlier, it's also unclear if this alleged gunman was the only active shooter, since they did find at least 3 other weapons, a pistol on the gunman, a high-powered weapon in what is believed to be his vehicle, and another weapon at another location. Again, this happened at the Student Union building around noontime, which of course is the heart of this very large and sprawling campus. And you can imagine, if you've ever been there, even if you haven't, what a student union is like the day before a holiday, Good Friday, and bustling, people trying to get their assignments in, finishing exams. You
stop by the campus store to buy merch to bring home for the long holiday weekend. You have lunch. I mean, the student union is the heart. Everything is there. So well, speaking of students, I think Joe Rotes is with us now, and he's the satellite center where we put together some of the sound that we've put together earlier in the day from some of the young people who were on campus as this all unfolded, Joe.
Exactly right, Craig and Lynn. And as you were just saying, you know, this is a busy campus. You're dealing with students who are there milling about, and then out of nowhere they get the word that the campus is in lockdown because of this active shooter. A lot of them staying exactly where they were. They had to hunker down in classrooms. They had to, as you mentioned there, in a student building there. There's one girl that we're hearing from now, a woman rather, that we're hearing from right now, who hunkered down in a cafeteria and was able to explain what she was going through. Let's go ahead and listen in to what she had to say.
Someone said there was a school shooter, and we were on Landis, and everyone started running, and there were like a bunch of police cars, and everyone's like running. And people are saying they heard gunshots, and everyone's like...
So you see the panic on her face. You see the panic on the students who were rushing out of that cafeteria. You can hear the emotion in her voice as people were trying to get out and get there to safety. And you're seeing a little bit more of that right now. Students who were being escorted out into a common area by police officers once they tried to get a handle on this situation. Those students all now being corralled in one area so that they can be reunified with their friends, we've been listening, or if they can be reunified with their family who may be coming to campus there to meet up with them and maybe help them get off of campus there. We are still working to learn more information as to where they're going. I believe it's the Civic Center that they're going to be meeting up with family and friends. And after that, once they do a check-in, they'd be able to leave the campus and after they answer officers' questions as part of this investigation. But we'll keep an eye on this. For now, we'll send it back to you guys. Fucking real, dude.
All right, Joe Rotes, thank you for that. We'll be getting back with you as more of the material continues to come into us here, and we know there's an awful lot of it. I made the point earlier. Social media has been, you know, as is often the case, the blessing and the curse. There's so much video that's been coming in, but often without context. So you might see a blurb of video of something, but you don't know exactly what it depicts. So what we try to do here, I mean, because we're going to show you the video, but try to show it to you once we know what is actually happening in it.
And we just saw that young student, though. I mean, you don't need any more deciphering than that. I mean, the sheer trauma on this one particular student's face, and she's near tears. What dozens of other students and faculty must be feeling and felt at the time. Just sheer terror. You know, it's one thing to hear about it on television. They train for it. They know. Gun violence is an issue, especially on our campuses in this country, but I'm sure nobody expected it. And that young woman who, and this is the Gen Z generation, you know, whipped out her phone to describe what she was feeling and what she heard. Her hands were shaking. And the last shooting there on this campus was in 2014. Wasn't that long ago. A man at FSU, he was in his 30s, shot 3 people at the library there. So, you know, they're getting trauma once again. But our hearts go out to everybody.
Well, and I made the point earlier, the one thing that really stands out, and all of the young people we've heard from, the few that Joe had for us a moment ago, and the others that we've shared, I'm struck by the composure and the ability of these, they're very young people, to find the words in such a scary situation. I mean, articulate and composed and deeply thoughtful.
And willing to share.
You often think of what you might be like in that situation, and you know, a lot of people would be hysterical, understandably. But all of these young people have had the way to find the words in a composed way and share the anguish and the fear and the concern. I mean, sadly, as I say, as a society, we've had an awful lot of practice with it. But it's one thing that really stands out as I've watched all afternoon, one young person after another, and their ability to tell us what happened.
And, you know, understandably, we can imagine they're still in shock and haven't even processed what happened. Want to also mention that FAMU classes are also canceled. FAMU, of course, is very close to this particular campus at Florida State. It's just minutes away. They announced this afternoon the classes and student activities are canceled for the rest of the day in response to the shootings. Now, they did say that employees here at FAMU have the option to work remotely for the rest of today. We also know in the area, elementary schools were shut down, classes were canceled as well, in an abundance of caution. So FAMU is also responding and trying to keep their faculty and staff safe as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's and not to suggest that there's any concern on campuses elsewhere, but on occasions like this, they obviously are attuned to what's happening, just to have their sensors up. But again, not to suggest that any other school or campus in any way, shape, or form might be affected by this, but they'd be remiss not to. This is one of those pieces of video that we've shown a few times, and we've blurred it just a bit there, that we've caught from social media, and
Oh, okay. I was wondering what the blur is, Craig.
So we believe it's perhaps a victim of the shooting, and that's why it's blurred there. There is another piece of video that we had, I think, that showed someone wounded but being escorted out by a number of officers. Don't know whether that is the shooter or whether that was a victim of the shooter. So again, as we get all these pieces of video in from a number of sources of social media, we try our best to get those answers and provide that context, as opposed to just slapping it on TV and figuring it out.
Well, those 2 officers were not rushing in any capacity, so we might imagine that there was something, a victim of some sort there. Let's go to Joe Rotes in the Newsplex with a little more info. Joe?
Yeah, we are getting new information right now, Lynn. Of course, in these situations, there's a lot of confusion, especially amongst those who are on the ground there on campus and living through all of this. And as people have been kind of following this along, some on social media, some information goes out that's not clear. We've heard students saying that they were confused at one point on whether there was just one shooter. At one point, I heard a student say that she was following along and she heard there were 4 shooters. Well, we are learning right now through CNN that is not the case. There's only one shooter involved here on the campus at FSU. Again, just one shooter. There is not more than one shooter. We can say that now with a lot of confidence at this point. Police have taken that suspect into custody. What we're still working to figure out right now in all of this is, as we talk about 6 people injured, is the shooter one of those people injured, or is the shooter a separate situation from that? But again, we are learning right now that there is one shooter in custody, and it is just one shooter. So it would seem that the situation here is under control. Of course, there is all of the fallout and then the investigation that will, of course, follow all of this. But again, that one shooter is in custody, and only one shooter at this time. Lynn and Craig?
And that would be consistent, Joe, with what we've seen in prior incidents such as these, where you don't get the sense, as we look at the pictures, of urgency, of movement among the law enforcement agencies. It's very orderly. And we're seeing the movement of students as they clear these buildings, as they clear room by room, as they clear them. We're seeing the students leave in orderly fashion, and that would not be happening if this were still an active situation. So the pictures are consistent with that information, Joe, which again, if there is any encouraging news out of this, it's that it appears that the incident itself has ended, although the business of getting students safely off campus, the business of getting to the bottom of why this all happened, that's just now beginning.
So we also understand the FBI is also on the scene right now. Attorney General Pam Bondi said, she said this in a media post, that the Justice Department is in touch with FBI agents, as I mentioned, that they're on the scene. She wrote on X, our priority is the safety of everyone involved. And you're looking at the tweet from the FBI Director, Kash Patel, saying, my team and I have been briefed on the shooting at Florida State. Our FBI Jacksonville team is on the ground assisting. We will provide full support to local law enforcement as needed. Please keep the FSU community in your prayers. Of course, that's from the FBI Director, Kash Patel. So the president has also been briefed. President Trump did speak about this a short time ago, saying that he was fully briefed on what happened. He said, quote, these things happen. Unfortunately, that may seem kind of callous, but it has become so true on our campuses across this country. But as we mentioned earlier, this could later ignite yet another talk about gun violence, especially at our schools and our universities. And again, this happened at the Student Union, the heart of any campus, let alone this very large state university campus there in Tallahassee, the day before Good Friday around noontime. Well, kids were getting lunch and studying. There's stores there, all kinds of activity. It's unclear where in the Student Union this happened, but that's when this mass shooting occurred, or where it occurred.
Yeah, I mean, if a student union, by definition, it's a large facility. It can encompass any number of restaurants, the campus store, often the bookstore, study areas. I think back to my student union, it had the section for on-campus tutoring. Some of the extracurricular, actually all of the extracurricular clubs were housed in the student union. The school newspaper, the school television station, and radio station, and yearbook, and I mean, so it's a central meeting place for all of those activities, and dining and entertainment. So when you picture a student union at the end of a busy semester, heading into a bit of a break for the holiday, you can imagine just how crowded it was with young people and faculty, and I mean, it really is a clearinghouse. So it could have been any number of places, but again, as we seek to learn more about the movement of the shooter, that will come at some point when we are briefed by authorities.
So that's important to note. Here it is 3:10 in the afternoon. The campus community has not received an all clear yet. Buildings are still being evacuated by law enforcement. And again, the first reports of the shooting came in around noontime, so we're a little over 3 hours right now. And that would explain why we have not been given more information from law enforcement, because the all clear has not been given, even though the gunman is in custody.
It's a big campus, and it's a building by building search and room by room. And that takes a while, and that's the priority, and everything else has to wait. So that's why they just moments ago reminded folks to shelter in place until such time law enforcement comes to you and tells you may follow us and leave. So it could be a bit before they offer the all clear. But the process of clearing these rooms does continue. So if you're at home and you haven't been able to reach your son or your daughter at this point in time, know that they are one by one clearing those rooms, and perhaps once they are off the campus and in a place where there's better cell service, you'll be able to get through. We made the point earlier, when the officers went into one of the rooms to clear it out, they told them, listen, you might not be able to get a call out because everybody's on their phone right now.
Yes, right. The cell towers are overwhelmed. And oh my goodness, the parents and family members who have not been able to get in touch with their students or loved ones, what they must be going through right now. But hopefully the majority of parents have been able to talk to their students. So again, they're being urged to shelter in place, to continue to shelter in place. We do know there is a news conference scheduled for 4 o'clock, hopefully to give us a little bit more confirmed information. That could happen straight up at 4 o'clock or a little after 4 o'clock. But now let's listen to some of the students. And as Craig and I have been talking about, this is where the good part of a cell phone comes into play, where students can talk to each other or record their feelings or record the scene of what's going on. And also they talk to reporters as well. Here's what some of them went through during that very traumatic time.
Class, and it was about 1 o'clock, and the shots rang out, and we were like, is that construction going on, or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off, and I was like, what's going on? So I saw kids running away from the student union, and I walked away from the window, then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out. And at that point we were like, okay, there's a shooting going on. So we ran from our classroom, went to the offices, locked the doors, barricaded ourselves in there, and then we waited and was looking out the window again and saw the SWAT teams pull up, the police cars, the FBI come, and at that point we were like, okay, we got to bunk ourselves in. And we were praying, we're like, okay, something's got to change here. And the SWAT team came into the room, they're like, stay where you are, don't move. And we were in there for about 30 minutes. And at that point we were escorted out. About 100 SWATs were inside the building, and our hands were up. And so then we were escorted outside past the union and then into a safe space.
So I was actually on the phone in like the stairwell. I was in the library between like the 4th and 5th floor, and like people started flooding up the stairs, but like nobody told me what happened. So then I started walking back up to the 5th floor. By the time I got there was like these girls, and like it was just chaos. Everyone was like, there's like a shooter and stuff. And so like these guys started like pressing the elevator button to have elevators come up and like put tables in the walkway to like block anyone from getting on the elevator. And then like some other guys like closed the doors to the 5th floor and then put tables and stuff there. But we were all like kind of panicked. I was like freaking out and shaking a lot, but for some reason I just had a peace. And part of that is like because I'm a Christian, and I think Jesus gave me peace in the midst of a chaotic situation. You know, people use free will for whatever they want to do. And so, like, it's very heartbreaking, but I hope that, you know, like, God is brought through this and that people would maybe seek him out through it. But, yeah, I was with actually a few of my friends, Nick and Allison. I was studying for an exam, but, yeah, it was chaos. We were standing up there, and then we actually were by the windows. So, like, at the windows, we saw cops running, students running. It was just like complete chaos. Everyone was like running all over the place. And then we saw like a gurney, and then like the gurney came back and the guy had his arm cut off, and I think like he was bleeding and like he had like bandages and stuff. And so like that was really hard to see.
Wow. So you get a glimpse of what the students were doing, studying for exams, living their lives there at the student union before this shooting took out. Again, it's still considered to be an active crime scene because the all clear has yet to be given for the campus.
Yeah, it started out like just like any other Thursday at the tail end of the semester until the quiet and the peace of that was shattered by gun violence. We have the video that I referenced a little while ago. I think it's the piece of video I was talking about that maybe we can share with you now. And this is, and we've pixelated it. We've distorted the image, in other words, of someone being carried out who, well, after that, we don't know anything. Right. There's some suggestion that it perhaps might have been the shooter, who we understand was wounded, but we don't know. But this is some video that has been making the rounds, certainly on social media. we'll do our best to get the context and tell you what it is, but you can see a number of officers there helping that person out, whether it was the shooter or a victim of the shooter. But that we wanted to pass that along as well.
So parents, imagine what they were going through, either hearing it on the news or on their phone or getting a message from their children or their loved ones. They also have been going through a pretty traumatic time. Let's listen from some of their perspectives.
Well, we got a call from my daughter before it hit the news. We've been on the phone with her for over an hour ever since. As a father, my wife's in the car and a mother, we are concerned for our daughter, but at least we're talking to our daughter and know that she is safe. Our hearts and prayers and minds are to anyone who's possibly had a child or a relative who's been injured or possible loss of life. And as a new pastor here in Tallahassee at the Bethel AME Church family on Orange Avenue, I am praying for our city and for the Florida State University community. You don't think it's going to happen, but with the level of gun violence in our country and with the level of mass shootings that occur, I think research shows that our country has more mass shootings than anywhere else on the planet. You always think in the back of your mind that someday something could happen. And a lot of anger for me comes from our policy with guns. And even in the state of Florida, how we made it easier for persons to own guns. We can't be a country that love our children and the citizens and continue to have the kind of gun policies we do. And I know everyone's going to say, no, don't rush to gun policy. Maybe some mental issues here or something, but we got to do something about that.
The sentiments of one parent at FSU, his thoughts on this day. He's probably right. This will be another instance in which, in the aftermath, there will be a renewed debate over gun policy here in the Sunshine State and gun policy throughout our land. In fact, there were discussions going on nearby in the legislature today about gun policy in the state of Florida. So that will, as is often the case, or not often, as is always the case on situations like this, will come up yet again in the aftermath. We are still, however, in the early stages of this. So I think that dad touched on it when he tried to blunt possible criticism of it's too soon to talk about it. That's likely the response he'll get. Let's get through this day first, and then down the line, perhaps have those conversations about gun policy. From the Tallahassee Police Department, they've just sent this out moments ago. Campus has been secured. Multiple law enforcement agencies remain on site for the investigation. The student union and surrounding areas are still considered an active crime scene. Individuals should not return for any reason, but busing is underway to help students reach the reunification point at the Tucker Civic Center. We've seen some of the video of the buses. We've seen some of the kids coming out. So the most important thing, moms and dads and those with concerns up in Tallahassee, from the Tallahassee Police Department, the campus has been secured. So again, the pictures tell the story. Were it not for what happened, if you looked at that picture without context, it looks like a tranquil afternoon. It is far from that. But the knowledge that the campus has been secured suggests that the event itself is over, and the victims have been taken to the hospital, and the investigation now can go full throttle, while at the same time those remaining students who are still on campus can be safely removed from campus and bused to the reunification center. So again, that word from the Tallahassee PD that the campus has been secured.
It's also worth noting that students have been allowed to go back to their dorms if they so choose to. Let's get more reaction or hear more reaction from students. Let's go to Joe Rhodes in the Newsplex with that, Joe.
And Lynn, you know, we've been seeing these students as they've been funneling out from whatever buildings that they were in as police were escorting them to safety. Again, trying to get them over to this civic center where they can be reunified with either their friends, their classmates, or family members if their family members are going over there to try and perhaps pick them up. And we're starting to hear more of their stories, more of what they experienced there on campus as this shooting unfolded, as well as what happened afterwards when they were locked down in their classrooms or whatever building they may have been in. One student just spoke out a few moments ago. Let's listen to what they had to say.
So what really happened is the first thing that set me off was there was just a lot of commotion. We were in the library, which is right by the student union. A lot of commotion. People started running, so naturally I thought to run with them. And once I got out of the building, that's when I heard about 7 to 8 gunshots, approximately.
7 to 8 gunshots, as you just heard, and that was just one area that particular student heard those gunshots ring out. CNN was reporting at one point, and again, these numbers could change. There's an ebb and flow to some of this information right now. CNN was reporting at one point that there were 3 guns involved here, that the shooter had a handgun, that there was a shotgun, as well as another gun in a vehicle. Again, CNN reporting that, and that could change as the investigation continues to unfold. But as you hear that student describe that, 7 to 8 gunshots, you can understand the chaos, the confusion, and how students who are just trying to maybe relay information both to one another or maybe out there on social media, how some of that confusion can get out there. That student in particular was in the library. Again, we know most of this centered around the Student Union Center, or at least near the Student Union Center, and created that large commotion. Well, as Craig was just telling us, Tallahassee police have said that the campus is secured, so some of that commotion has now dwindled down a little bit, but now the investigation will be intense. The police presence will be heavy there as they continue moving forward and figuring out what exactly happened here, a motive, why this person would come onto campus, who this person was, and what the reasoning was behind their actions. Craig, Lynn?
All right, Joe, and I'll piggyback off of some of that. This is from, I believe this is campus police. It's from FSU. And again, the local police say campus has been secured. FSU says law enforcement has neutralized the threat, in their words, neutralized. For obvious reasons, please avoid the student union. And again, for those familiar, Bellamy, HCB classroom building, Rivetta A and B, Moore Auditorium, Shaw, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway, as they are still considered an active crime scene. So that's a number of venues that are considered active crime scenes. Individuals are free to move about other areas of campus, and they leave a phone number urging folks who might have seen something to call. But again, that's the Student Union building. We've focused a lot of our conversation on the Student Union. But Bellamy, HCB classroom building, Rivetta A and B, the Moore Auditorium, Shaw, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway, these are all also considered an active crime scene, and people are not allowed in or around them for the time being. So again, at 4:30, when we anticipate hearing from authorities, we may get a sense as to why such a large swath is part of a crime scene.
And this map shows you exactly where the student union is. As we've been saying, it is in the heart of this very sprawling university there in Tallahassee. Students have been urged to go, speaking of specifics when it comes to this area, to the Donald Tucker Center. This is where students can get some counseling, receive health care, basically get support for the trauma that has occurred 3.5 hours ago. And again, classes, we understand, at FSU have been canceled at least until Friday. They'll be on Easter holiday. It is at the end of the semester. Graduation is right around the corner. We've only heard about this weekend right now. And we understand, as Craig and I have been telling you, officially right now, 6 people wounded, 1 in critical. The gunman has been captured. Unclear if the gunman has been injured, shot, him or herself as well. Hopefully we'll get more information at 4:30.
I think we can dip into our sister station in Tallahassee. They have something that we would like to share with you now.
Never thought this would happen.
Well, tell me, I mean, what has your experience been like today? What have you been hearing? I mean, how have you been trying to understand what's going on?
I mean, I think we're never really going to be able to understand it. Luckily, our community, we build each other up. Like, my professor and the people in my class, like, made sure we were all comfortable. And I know that FSU will come back from this. But it's something, we'll never get over, but we'll get through it, I guess.
It sounds like you've heard from your friends. Maybe some of them heard what was going on, but they're all safe. Yeah, they're all safe. That was the first thing I did. I had my one friend was in the building on the floor in the dark, waiting her to get the all clear. Her doors didn't even lock. They didn't know what was going on. But no, I'm very lucky to have all my friends accounted for and know that everyone's okay. Carmen, I'll let you get going. I know it's been a really hard day.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a live interview with one of our sister station there, talking to obviously clearly traumatized student. It's a natural reaction for let alone a young person or anybody who's been through trauma to sort of have the look that she has on her face, almost half smiling, nervous, giggling, and she's still trying to process it. Pretty poignant that she said that we'll never get over this. She's probably right that anybody who's been on any school shooting or any mass shooting remembers it to their last day. The question will be, how did it happen? How can it be prevented? And what discussion, again, will this spark when it comes to gun violence in our schools?
And authorities are asking for those, and we've seen video from young people coming in through social media, but anybody who saw anything, the smallest detail, because now what they're going to try to do, assuming they can't get this information from the gunman, is piece together a narrative, piece together a sequence of events, a timeline of how this all unfolded. And it would appear, because there are multiple crime scenes, as per that last statement from the university, a timeline of events and venues and everything that was involved in this incident as it unfolded. They're actively working on that right now that the campus itself has been secured and the process of safely evacuating students is able to continue.
And you wonder, with this affecting so many students, again, this is a very large campus, and even if those, a student was not in the student union, everybody there is affected by the shooting in some way. And you have to wonder, with these young people about to embark on their life, the rest of their lives and their careers, how this mass shooting at their university will affect them and what they do for a living and the mark they make in the world in the future. As you're looking at a live picture of an intersection here, you do see some police activity heading up the street. You can see students just sort of looking. This whole town is well,
Tallahassee is a college town. I mean,
right.
it's a college. It's a state capital, so it's business of government and business of college, and it's very close knit. Again, these are live pictures, so you can see some of the movement that's going on in and around the campus there. The Capitol had been locked down. That has since been lifted, but it's all in such close proximity. You'll hear the sirens if you're at the Capitol as they march toward FSU. Real quick, because just a housekeeping for folks at home, Joe Rotes is going to move in here now and join Lynn as our coverage continues. So stay with us on the air and online for our continuing coverage.
And nearby University of FAMU is also affected. They announced a short time ago the classes are canceled as well for them in an abundance of caution and to cooperate with any kind of investigation. We know initially some middle schools were also on lockdown when this happened a few hours ago. And as we've been telling you, the campus here at Florida State University has been secured, to use the words from investigators and police and the FBI. They also say the threat has been neutralized, but they're advising students to avoid certain buildings. The student union, where the shooting took place, Bellamy, which is near the student union, HCB classroom building, Rovetta A and B, the Moore Auditorium, which is a large building, Shaw, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway. These are all in that area of the student union. They're advising students and faculty to avoid these buildings because, quote, they're still considered an active crime scene. We're expecting a news conference in about an hour with officials. As we told you earlier, the FBI is also on the scene, helping local officials with their initial investigation.
Joe Rhodes here joining Lynn Martinez. And Lynn, the last time I had a chance to check in with you and Craig, I had mentioned 3 guns, according to CNN. We now have a chance to further some of that information. Again, as I mentioned before, this is going to ebb and flow throughout the afternoon. We're getting some further clarification on those weapons. CNN is reporting right now that investigators did find a handgun, specifically a handgun that was on the suspect. Again, that suspect, there was just one of them. That suspect taken into custody. They were able to locate a second gun that was found in the suspect's car, and then they were able to locate a shotgun that was found inside the student union building. So it looks like this investigation is centering around 3 weapons here. It's unclear if the gun in the car was used, but that shotgun was left in the student union building, and the handgun was on the suspect. We did hear from one student not too long ago who mentioned 7 to 8 gunshots that rang out. And just to kind of put into perspective here what students were seeing and if anybody knew this suspected gunman, a note I have here says that one of the students who saw the shooter described him as, quote, a normal college dude. They say he was wearing an orange T-shirt as well as khaki shorts. That student going on to say, quote, I was walking and this guy pulls up in an orange Hummer, the student said, and he gets out with a rifle and shoots in my direction. Well, now we can say that that gun was a shotgun, according to police who are now investigating this. A shotgun found in the student union building, which is where a lot of this activity seems to be centering around. A handgun found there on that suspect, as well as a second gun that was found in the car.
And because we heard that a little while ago, that there were 3 weapons, initially there were concerns and questions about, is there more than one gunman? Is there more than one shooter? And officials say, as far as we can tell, there is one gunman, and quote, that threat has been neutralized. But as Joe just said, they did find 3 weapons. The school sent out an alert urging students when this happened about an hour and a half ago to seek shelter. Nearly everybody has a phone, so that's where they got their alerts. As a shooter was reported in the area of the student union, so most people got that message. Again, at least 6 people are getting treatment at the hospital there at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. 1 is in critical. The rest, we understand, are in stable. And again, these numbers could change because police are in their initial investigation. Local police are being assisted by the FBI as well. As Attorney General Pam Bondi says, she's also in contact with the authorities there at the university and their investigation. She says all hands on deck, and they're here to assist. Students are allowed to go back to their dorms, and they are getting some support at the Donald Tucker Center. They're giving them counseling, health care, just emotional support. We've been hearing from students just trying to process, just numb and in shock, and probably still really scared as to what they saw and what they heard. And again, you didn't have to be in the student union to be traumatized. This happened at their school, and for everybody who was in that building, what they must have felt when they were, some of them running for their lives.
This is trauma that, of course, stays with them, you know, for years beyond this. And I mean, we know from other incidents that have taken place both here at home in South Florida as well as throughout the state and then across the country. You know, this shapes people. It really sticks with them. It forms their decision making as they move on through the years. Lynn, as you just touched on there, you know, the people coming out of this. We just heard from one of the students not too long ago who was in the cafeteria at the time. You could see just how shaken up she was, both physically and mentally, as she was grappling with this. I mean, anytime you hear this gunfire, anytime you know there's an active shooter on campus, your mind goes to the worst places. You don't know how many victims there are going to be, you know, but your mind goes to the worst places. We did hear from that student not too long ago. That student specifically was in the cafeteria. I'm getting word now that we're hearing from another student who is relaying what they heard inside the Student Union Center, where much of this activity has been focused. If we have that, we'll go ahead and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I just got my lunch from the union, and I was getting ready to work on some of my meteorology homework. Right now I'm a junior at FSU studying meteorology, and I was getting ready to do some of my work when suddenly from about the east entrance of the FSU Student Union, I saw a horde of students running in a frenzy where I realized what was going on. I think I might have heard someone say it was an active shooter event, so I quickly grabbed what I could and just got out of there. Now, unfortunately, when I was trying to flee from the student union, I actually ended up tripping on some of the stairs that lead up to the union, and I sprained my ankle, have a couple scratches on my leg as well as on my left thumb, but otherwise, physically, I'm all right. Just taking the time right now to just recover and kind of process everything. But after I left that student union, I hid behind some bushes, and when I did, I was able to contact my mom. But at the same time, I started hearing gunshots ring off in a very rapid succession. I believe I didn't actually see the shooter, but from what I heard, it sounded more like an automatic weapon, and it was just absolutely horrific.
Of course, absolutely horrific. This is new video that you are looking at right now, just into the newsplex. These are students inside the building there on campus being marched through the hall. This is unfortunately standard operating procedure at this point in the United States after a school shooting like this. As they start to evacuate students out, they will bring them out with their hands up. This is how police keep control of the situation. They can ensure that no one else has any weapons or is going to do anything nefarious. They know that they're walking then with innocent students. And that one girl's hand, you see that one looks like a cup, actually, but another one there, she has a phone. Yeah. So that's how a lot of this information gets relayed, some of these live streams, some of these new videos that end up coming out of here. But that is a new view that we are just getting into the newsplex that you saw there.
And every one of them has a story to tell, has some sort of trauma. Unfortunately, we are now building a community of people who know what a mass shooting at school feels like. And it was just, Parkland was not that long ago, February 14th, 2018. Fred Guttenberg, his daughter, Jamie, was shot and killed in Parkland. And he definitely knows what these parents and students are feeling and going through. He spoke a short time ago. Here's his reaction.
We'll get to that in just a moment. We're working on...
Let me just tell you what he said.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Nicole Insalata spoke to him, and we'll have his sound in a little bit, but he basically says, America is broken. My daughter Jamie was murdered in the Parkland school shooting. Many of her friends who were lucky enough to survive that shooting went on to attend FSU. Incredibly, some of them were just part of their second school shooting and were in the student union today. As a father, all I ever wanted after the Parkland shooting was to help our children be safe. Sadly, because of the many people who refuse to do the right things about reducing gun violence, I'm not surprised by what happened today. Again, that was the father of Jamie Guttenberg, Fred, who has helped ignite this discussion about gun violence on our schools. And his last statement is very telling. He's not surprised. He's
been a leading voice on a call for change within the United States when it comes to gun control and making sure that a shooting like what happened at Parkland does not happen again, even after, trials and everything. He has made sure that his voice remains out there, and he's taken his calls all the way up, not only to the state, but to the federal government as well. He and a few other parents who have remained very active following the Parkland shooting in February of 2018. Again, you're looking live at the campus right now. This is an active investigation. It will remain an active investigation throughout the next day or so. Parts of the campus have been shut down through the weekend, we're being told. They are canceling activities. You are starting to see some students milling about there again as they are being released, as they are being ushered out. I believe I'm being told we have some more new video that kind of shows students
running
in the aftermath of all this. So I believe, if I'm hearing correctly, you might be able to hear, it's either their footsteps there, but it perhaps was a bullet or two that you could hear to start off that video. And that's, of course, what sent these students scrambling there. And they're looking for safety. I mean, they're going to try going out. I mean, these students are either going to their cars to get in their cars and find somewhere safe, or they are going to try and leave campus just to be away from it all. You know, there are those reports that from one student that, you know, maybe this happened in the parking lot, started in the parking lot before getting to the student center because of those shots coming from that Hummer that the shooter was in.
And that's a really good point worth touching on, and it'll be interesting to see if investigators touch on that during their news conference in 45 minutes or so. I wanted to go back to what Joe was just saying, that this one FSU student is telling the NBC affiliate there that he allegedly saw the alleged gunman as a normal college dude. Those are his words, wearing this orange T-shirt. He had light hair, khaki shorts, and he pulls up in an orange Hummer. So if that is the case, definitely memorable, not trying to blend in. And then the student goes on to say, and he gets out with a rifle and shoots in my direction. Was that in the parking lot? Did he run to the student union? That remains to be seen. But investigators, it seems like, have a lot of information, a lot of evidence, and a lot of witnesses.
Exactly. And we're hoping that they're able to start piecing a lot of that together as they start to now pull this investigation together. I mean, we've been able to hear from witnesses. We've been able to hear some ancillary tidbits that have been coming in through sources, through media outlets that have been, you know, putting this together. But, you know, behind the scenes investigators are doing the same thing. And when we hear from them at an expected news conference at 4:30, hopefully we'll get a more clear picture. Again, still plenty of unknowns at this hour, specifically with the victim count. You know, we do know 6 people injured. We don't know if the shooter was believed to be one of them. At least last check, from what I was told, was the shooter one of those 6. There's been reports of whether a student has been killed. So hopefully we start to get some clarification as to some of that.
And we have heard that, and we do not operate on we've heard, and that's why we have not been definitive about the casualty number. We're just reporting to you what police are telling us, and right now the number stands at 6. Students are allowed to go back to the residence halls, we're hearing from police, but should otherwise, quote, remain indoors. First responders and campus are doing their jobs on campus, we understand. The student union and the surrounding area still considered, quote, to be an active crime scene. That, according to the university. They say, quote, individuals should avoid the area. We went over those 6 buildings that they're urged to avoid, especially the student union. They say students should not return to the student union to retrieve their personal property at this time. They are allowed to go back to their dorms. They say it is a little confusing. The campus is, quote, secured. The threat is neutralized, but they have these 6 or so buildings that are under intense investigation that students and faculty are not allowed to go near. Classes are canceled through Friday. Nearby Florida A&M University has also canceled classes. It's just a few minutes away. So in abundance of caution, they've closed down their school classes, and student activities are canceled for the rest of their day in response to the shooting.
And we are getting a little bit more information from CNN right now pertaining to that shooter specifically. CNN citing one of their law enforcement sources that are there on the ground in Tallahassee, saying that the shooting suspect was shot. So we do know the shooter was shot and injured, but again, we go back to the unknowns right now. It's not clear at this point who shot the suspect, according to that law enforcement. Now, there's many different angles to that. I mean, was it police responding to the shooting and they neutralized the shooter, which is what campus police have said? Or is it perhaps the shooter tried taking their own life and, you know, injured themselves? Or, I mean, in today's times, it's possible maybe there was another student who was maybe prepared and, you know, took action themselves. But we do know that suspect was shot. We don't know who shot the suspect, again, if it was themselves or maybe somebody else.
And what condition the gunman is in, if that person has been shot or not. hopefully, we'll get more information when this news conference starts at about 4:30. It is not the first time there has been a shooting at Florida State University. Unfortunately, in 2014, a man in his 30s, I believe was 31 years old at the time, went into the library and shot 3 people. So that was in November, some 5 years ago, which really wasn't that long ago. A student recently said, we just aired it a few moments ago, she says, we'll never get over this, and we can understand these students with their hands up. Saw a few minutes ago students running down the sidewalk. Looked like they were jogging. They were not jogging. They were running from gunfire or a perceived threat at the school. Classes, again, as we said, are canceled throughout the weekend, or at least through Friday. Easter, of course, is Sunday. And we're at the end of the semester. Students who are studying for final exams, turning in projects, getting ready for graduation.
2 weeks away from graduation, and now, unfortunately, this is the reality that they are facing, that they will carry this with them. No doubt something like this will cast a cloud over graduation. They'll have to address this, and it'll also mean increased security, no doubt, at a graduation where you have hundreds of students, and then, couple that with the parents, the family members that will be there as well. And even as these students, the seniors who move on from this college campus and then move on through life, they will carry what happened here today along with them. There was one student, Chris Malave, who did an interview not that long ago, and he was quoted as saying, it was just absolutely horrific, and it's something I'm not going to forget for a very long time. So that just shows you the trauma that these students endure, and it's unfortunate because they're so young in their lives, and now it is 20, 21 years old, that they'll carry this with them.
And of course, this has happened all across our country, even to students who are even younger. It's so sad. A lot of these students, as we've seen in the last 3-4 hours since we've been covering this story, the students are in shock. They even would say, I'm in shock, hard to believe, couldn't believe it was happening, heard sirens, had to run. Florida State has canceled all home athletic events through Sunday. Classes are canceled. These seem obvious, but they're worth repeating, even though the quote threat has been neutralized. The investigation has just started. As we said earlier, the president has been briefed on the shooting. In fact, he commented on it when he was meeting with the Italian prime minister in the White House a short time ago, saying these things happen, and they do, and many would say should not.
And that goes back to what we were talking about with Fred Guttenberg and his call for change, as well as so many others who have been impacted by this violence over the years. If you're just joining us right now, I do want to recap what we are looking at right now and what we are dealing with. There was an active shooter situation on the campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee. At least 6 people we know right now are receiving treatment at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. The hospital system there has said that they are fully mobilized as they are treating those patients. We don't know at this moment if of those 6 people that they are treating, if the shooter involved here is one of the 6, or if that would be an additional, because we do know that the shooter was shot themselves. There was only one shooter. The campus police have said that that threat has been neutralized. Presumably that's what they mean when they say that the shooter was hit by gunfire themselves. We don't know how that shooter was injured. As far as weapons go, CNN, again, recapping here, CNN saying that there was a handgun on the suspect. There was a second gun found in the car that they arrived in, and there was also a shotgun inside the student union building. And again, the student union building is where a lot of this activity seems to be centered around. We've been telling you about Senator Nicole Ensalado, who spoke not that long ago with Fred Guttenberg, who addressed the obvious, that students who have graduated from Parkland, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and have gone on to college. Some of them are on FSU's campus. They go to school there. He had a chance to speak with us about his reaction to this a short time ago. We'll go ahead and listen into that now.
This country is broken. I'm a father of 2 children who were in the Parkland school shooting, and unfortunately my daughter Jamie was killed that day. I am also a father who knows far too many kids that were in that Parkland shooting, who survived it, who went to FSU, and who have now been a part of 2 mass school shootings.
And you can just hear in his voice, something like this happens, and it just has to reignite the trauma, the nightmare for him, having lived through this. And Lynn, you mentioned it, you know, there's unfortunately a community, and we've heard this from people who have gone through this and lost loved ones. There is a community. It's not a community you want to see grow, but it is one that, you know, they are there for one another. But it's hard when something like this pops up again, and, you know, Fred Guttenberg now has to, you know, think about his own daughter whose life was lost, and then realize that there's a new crop of families who are experiencing, whether or not they lose a loved one here, but just that they have to go through this trauma, whether their child was injured or what have you.
Every parent worries about their child when they're in preschool, middle school, junior high, high school, college, even in a, quote, safe environment. Every parent is concerned. And now our concern as parents, I mean, just as people, certainly is a concern for their safety when it comes to this kind of violence. FBI agents are on the scene, as we've told you already, but Attorney General Pam Bondi has already commented in a social media post on X saying that the Justice Department is in touch with FBI agents. They are on the scene there at FSU. Pam Bondi says our priority is the safety of everybody involved. She says we'll keep updating as we learn more, praying for all. Kash Patel, the FBI director, also made a statement on social media saying that he and his team had been briefed on the shooting and that agents from the Bureau's Jacksonville field office were at the school. Those are the FBI agents that are on the ground. He says, quote, we will provide full support to local law enforcement as needed. He says, please keep the FSU community in your prayers. Governor Ron DeSantis, there's Kash Patel's post. If you're watching us, if you're listening to us, I just read it for you. Governor Ron DeSantis also responded to this active shooting. He says, quote, our prayers are with the FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding. Governor Ron DeSantis said, wrote that on X. As we've said earlier, Florida A&M nearby also canceled classes. As you look at a live picture right there, road closures in the area. If you've ever been to Tallahassee, you know that FAMU is just a few minutes away from Florida State University. They canceled classes and all student activities for the rest of the day in response to the shooting. Even though FSU, the campus is secured, the threat, quote, is neutralized. Police are investigating. FAMU says an abundance of caution, our school is closed right now. The medical examiner's office does not have any updates at this time. This is normal for reporters and journalists to ask about that when it comes to any potential deaths. But right now we are going with the information that local authorities have given us, and that is right now 6 wounded from this mass shooting. 1 is in critical condition. A lot of questions, of course, when it comes to those injured. Was everybody injured only at the student union? That's where this shooting took place. And of course, how did this person get to the student union? Reporters will be asking a lot of those questions. Many times when you have a news conference in a large national story like this, local law enforcement and investigators will just give a statement. They won't ask or answer questions, but it could happen. So that remains to be seen. We do know that the 6 people are receiving treatment at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. That according to confirmation from a spokesperson there at the hospital. Again, 1 in critical, and the rest are not. Only 1 person is in critical. And if you're just now joining us, we are getting more information from students because there were a lot of witnesses to this crime who were there in the student union and outside of the student union. One person in particular, Joe mentioned earlier, this student at FSU said he saw the gunman. He quoted him, he described him as being a normal college dude who was wearing an orange T-shirt, khaki shorts, he had light hair. His quote was, "I was walking and this guy pulls up in an orange Hummer and he gets out with a rifle and shoots in my direction." 3 weapons were found, a handgun and a rifle. I believe the rifle was found in what could be the gunman's vehicle. Don't know if it's the Hummer or not. And another weapon was found at another location. And when we first heard there were 3 weapons found, there were questions as to, is there another gunman? Active shooter could mean one or many shooters. So police are saying now that the threat is neutralized. It's our understanding that there was and is only one gunman. Students have been allowed to go back to their dorms. They say the campus is secured, but there are 6 buildings in particular they're not allowed to enter, students and faculty, one being where the shooting took place, and that's the student union.
And it'll be interesting again to hear how some of this information changes, how it evolves, which it naturally will. When we do get this update, we're expecting again to hear an update from investigators at 4:30. Of course, they are there on campus. They are gathering the latest information, as are we right now, as we work to bring it to you, and bring it to you in a fashion where it is truthful, and that's why we are always very careful to relay before having to pull anything back.
The good news is they seem to be getting, the students seem, well, I don't know if they're getting support. The support has been offered immediately for these students. And immediately on their phones, they were encouraged to go to the Donald Tucker Center to receive any kind of counseling, any kind of health care, any kind of emotional support. Because if you've seen these students and anybody who's seen anything traumatic, many of them are in shock. And even if they were in the building itself, the student union, in the surrounding areas, when you're told your life is in jeopardy and you have to run, that's pretty traumatizing. So the school is responding to all the students at this time.
And they will work with them. It is very commonplace in these situations that, as again you continue to look at live pictures here of state police now, Florida Highway Patrol there, passing under that tunnel and going through the campus. But the campus will provide resources, and they will help these students as best as they can. Again, you know, college graduation in 2 weeks. This will change for a lot of them, and we'll see how this moves forward for them.
Let's start 7 News at 4 now.
And for those of you who are just joining us right now, developing at 4 o'clock, it is college town chaos. Shots have been fired on FSU's campus. At least 5 people hit as students ran and took shelter from flying bullets. Hello and thank you for joining us. It is terror in Tallahassee. Hours after this shooting, the campus has now been secured.
But not before several were rushed to the hospital, including the shooter. We're also learning several guns, 3 in particular, have been recovered. Let's go to Jack Royer. He's live in the Newsplex to bring us up to speed. Jack.
And Lynn, Joe, the emergency alert went out just after noon today. An active shooter on the Florida State University campus. Authorities say the lone suspect was shot and injured. It's unclear by whom. That person is in custody but is hospitalized at this hour. At least 5 other people on campus were injured, and they are also being treated at the same hospital in Tallahassee. Police say they found 3 weapons, including a handgun on the shooting suspect, another gun in his car, and another in the student union building where the shooting apparently took place. We still do not know at this hour the shooter's identity, as tonight students and parents are describing this terror in Tallahassee.
People downstairs.
Terror in Tallahassee. Just after noon, warnings of an active shooter on the Florida State University campus.
Shots rang out, and we were like, is that construction going on, or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off.
Students seen running across campus as police escorted students to safety amid the threat.
Someone said there was a school shooter, and we were all nervous, and everyone started running, and there were like a bunch of police cars. And everyone's like running.
The shooting happening at the Student Union building.
I saw kids running away from the Student Union, and I walked away from the window. Then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out. And at that point, we were like, okay, there's a shooting going on.
Parents scrambling to contact their sons and daughters.
We got a call from my daughter before it hit the news. We've been on the phone with her for over an hour ever since. As a father, my wife's in the car, and a mother, we are concerned for our daughter, but at least we're talking to our daughter and know that she is safe.
With students left in shock.
I was completely in shock. I didn't think this could happen at Florida State. I mean, we're a pretty safe campus, but yeah, this is just like unheard of to me. I never have been in a school shooting before, an active shooter. This is like the first time for me, and I was honestly in shock. My hands were shaking, just adrenaline kicked in, and I really didn't know what to do. I started tearing up, just like I was scared, to be honest.
Again, at least 6 people are injured. We understand one of those people is the gunman. We don't know yet if anyone has been killed as a result of this. Classes and all university events are canceled through this weekend, and we expect to learn quite a bit more when authorities speak at a news conference that is now planned for 4:30 today. In the Newsplex, Jack Royer, 7 News.
Very scared students, gunshots turning their day upside down as terror ripped through the Student Union building. Their lives are upside down now. We're hearing more from those who saw the chaos. The chaotic and terrifying scramble at Florida State University.
And like people started flooding up the stairs, but like nobody told me what happened.
The automatic lockdown across campus that left students in fear.
Wake up, and then all of a sudden, these loud, blaring, like deafening sounds from the speakers in the dorms, they start going off, and they start telling us, life-threatening emergency. And so, we start freaking out, in the rooms here, and then we get a text that there's an active shooter. And I mean, it was a shaking, a really scary event.
The sinking but all too familiar feeling as word spread of an active shooter.
I mean, honestly, it was pretty traumatizing. Like, you always hear about these things. You never really expect to be in one.
Students at Florida State sharing the paralyzing moments Thursday when at least 6 people were injured during this mass shooting on campus.
But we were all like kind of panicked. I was like freaking out and shaking a lot.
Celeste Hallivan, a junior at the university, was studying at the school's library when suddenly everyone started running.
It's like these girls, and like it was just chaos. Everyone was like, there's like a shooter and stuff. And so like these guys started like pressing the elevator button to have the elevators come up and like put tables in the walkway to like block anyone from getting on the elevator.
Others off campus getting word of the situation, fearful for those they know on campus.
I was parking my car, walking back, and as I was walking back, I see these group of girls crying, really upset, walking back from the student union, told me they heard gunshots.
Those living there checking on their friends in the dorms during the harrowing moments.
My roommate actually wasn't in the room, which had me pretty nervous. I checked in with him. He was okay. But the floors have been pretty empty around here in the area. So, like, I don't know much. The dorm group chat, we have a group chat in our dorm. They were all freaking out, telling each other, we're all safe, stuff like that.
Hundreds still hoping and praying their loved ones are okay.
Nervous. I'm scared for my friends. I'm making sure I'm checking up on them. And I just hope everyone's okay.
This isn't the first shooting, unfortunately, at FSU. 3 people were shot at the school's main library. That was back in 2014. The gunman was killed by police. All 3 shooting victims did survive. 7's Brandon Beyer and Danielle Garcia are on their way to Tallahassee. Watch for their live report, starting with Brandon on the night team, first at 10. And stay tuned for more coverage. There is that news conference we've been telling you about. It's scheduled for 4:30. That's going to be with police, perhaps FBI as well. When that happens, we'll bring it to you live here on 7 News, WSVN.com, or 7 News app, and of course, on all of our social media platforms.
And now at 4 o'clock, as we turn to other news, investigators are on the hunt for a suspect who they say stabbed